Call the meeting to order of the Wright County Planning Commission. First thing on the agenda tonight would be action on the March 7th, 24 minutes. Has everybody been able to read through them? And if so, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? There's
I
no-
probably should abstain, I wasn't here.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, all those that approve of the minutes from March 7th, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same way. Motion carries. And Ravender.
DB.
First on the agenda tonight is Zeb Haney, the Estate Development Corporation. If he's here, if you want to come up and give your name for the record, please, and we will proceed.
My name is Jeff Vanderlinde, and I'm here. We've been kind of handicapped a little bit with Marty Campion being out of town last time, the engineer. And, you know, I've been directly involved. I've been at every meeting. I was at the site inspection when you guys came out and looked at it. I was directly involved with the Honerbrink property that was to the east of this development, to the development, the Rompo property, to that. And I've been pretty lucky that I've been blessed in Wright County in what I do. So I asked, I'm not an engineer, but I'm going to try to talk about, because I think I want to clear a few things up by sitting there.
Okay, let's get the name of the other gentleman first,
Kevin Miller.
and then I'll have Barry open it up for us, and then we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Oh, yes, Mr. Chairman, this was continued from the last meeting for potential revisions. And so the applicant has been back to the township. They have provided some revisions. This revision would be similar to the last plan, but would put the open space back in the request. And then they did send the similar layout that they had previously with no open space and the farm property being the restricted land instead of the common open space. The township did forward another response similar to the last one, that they just restate their previous approval.
Okay, thank you. Now, if you would like to add?
Yes, we have some points, you know, just being out there. You know, guys, I was at the site inspection, and a couple of you guys were there, and I think there was other couple of commissioners, and when you're standing at the house, we stood at the house, and we looked up, and you couldn't see anything else because the hill and it's so steep going down to the lake. And then we drove around to the other end of the property where this extension of a cul-de-sac would happen, and we stood there and looked at it to kind of go through, so everybody wanted to see what was there and identified it at the time. The township, and it's in the minutes, does not want this road to go through. Mainly, and there's a big point that everybody's missing, is cost to redo this. It's about an extra 1.1 million to continue the road all the way through. However, what wasn't brought up last time is this is a SSD. And on an SSD, the owners are going to be responsible for the road. The only thing the township is going to do is they are going to plow the road. In 3 years after it's turned over, they have to pay to chip and seal coat the property. When the town, every 5 years, they have to chip and seal coat the property. And when the township, 15 to 20 years, when they seem it doable, the owners in this development have to pay to retar it. I get to wear a couple different hats. I've been a resident of Franklin Township for 50 years, and we're getting swallowed up so bad by Delano. I have the land use, and even this development, we're up against Carver County, we're up against Hennepin County. On the other side of Rice Lake is Hennepin County and Carver County. So this is about the other way that we can go with the development in their growth area. The township has reaffirmed this plan 3 times. The question was, we had open space, so this plan's been redrawn 4 times, and it was looked at the road, and I'll get to that too. You guys asked for some open space, and that was our original plan, was the open space. I have an email here from Barry, and can we put this on the screen, Barry, that you sent to the township? So an email that was sent to the township And it states that in discussion with the DNR, the proposal for Rice Lake, and it goes on that Barry's own email when he responded, because this township had questions. Some residents had questions stating the statute, PUD must be 50% open space and that. So then the township reached out to Barry. The state rule referenced by the rule 6120 3800, the rules regarding shoreline, in discussion with the DNR, the proposal Rice Lake doesn't apply to this. So after we had the plan with open space, we switched the plan. Because the property to the east of this, which was the Honebrink property, has no open space. It's a large, they kept the home with like 30 or 40 acres. And the one to the south of this, where a lot of the neighbors live, the old Romfo, that stayed as whole too. The only one that has open space is the one that we did 2 years ago, and Lubin was involved with that. It was his land. And that they created some open space, but didn't need to be. So I just wanted to clear that up. I don't think that the council understood that this, and it's in the minutes, and the exact words are, I have a couple of them right from the township. Mr. Newman, currently Eckerd Avenue was built in the intention of extending the cul-de-sac, and we changed it to a full turnaround, so it's not a cul-de-sac, it's a center island, so the plow can come in and out. Hawkinson, Field the Township needs have been met with a new concept. This will also help our tax base out. Some of the developments, we just had to buy a $300,000 truck and plow. We're running out of money. There was a new development over, you guys have approved 2 of them. It was Cedar
Lake Estates,
and
Franklin Woods.
they're both, Franklin Woods is within a quarter mile of this. It's a cul-de-sac, it is not tarred. The township, we're going broke trying to refix these roads. We had to redo Farmington and stuff. So Cedar Lake Estates, before, the tax base on that was $700. Well, now that it's full, it's bringing in the township $9,000. So this project will bring in about $30,000. The extension of the road, and it was always for that way, and I think that got missed. So do you call it a private road? It's not private because the township, but it's not going through because the owners are the ones that are gonna have to maintain it. And that is in the township minutes, and they're not 100% sure because Stephanie, the secretary, is still checking in. We don't know if it has to be an association or assessment on tax rolls for these, because what we're talking about is we're talking about 11 homes on this cul-de-sac. In Delano, and I've been very fortunate, I've been very blessed, there's 6 PUDs, and there's 4 or 5 of them within a mile and a half of this. Every one are dead end. They could have went through, but they stayed with open space. One has open space, the other ones do not. It's just owned by the one farm that's there. As Barry stated, they do have restrictions, so they'll put a restriction on that piece. Most of what we're seeing is they're used for horses. The one is tillable. It just kind of depends. A lot of them are cut for alfalfa and hay, stuff like that. I don't know if this is something you guys want to see, the map. Will we put it up? May I?
Barry, do you want to put that?
Just a second.
He's got to put the camera there for you.
Just a second. There. Actually, I don't have a camera here, so. This can't go up. I don't have a camera here. So. What's that? Yeah. Never used it. Here. Jeff.
Is that?
Take that from Barry, put it in front of you on the podium. Put it over here right in front of you where the microphone is. Just set it down.
Yeah.
Move it off my camera right above you.
Okay, and just while we're kind of at a break here, just for a little bit of clarification, the conversation regarding the PUD is that state shoreline rules are specific. It must have at least 50% open space when it's a shoreline PUD. I did have a discussion with James Bedell, our area hydrologist, and the portion in Minnesota State Shoreline Rules 6120 are for PUDs that meet the DNR standard. So the DNR has different standards, and since our lot sizes and densities are far more restrictive than what the state allows in their size and density for PUDs. It does not qualify as a PUD under the state shoreland rules, but it still qualifies as a PUD in our zoning ordinance, which we went over the restricted lands portion at the last meeting. There are two ways PUDs can be done. One is with common open space and the other is with restricted lands. And as mentioned at that last meeting, that's been fairly widely interpreted throughout the years here at the county what restricted lands mean. The ordinance has specific language in it that I don't know if that's how it's supposed to read or not, but I do know that Jeff is correct. The most of the PUDs in this area have what's called restricted lands, which include the farm, the original farm with all the buildings, and some type of active agriculture on it, whatever that means, whether it's horses or farm ground or whatever.
Okay, thank you, Barry.
And if I talk too fast, please let me know. I mean, I'm not a presenter, I'm a real estate guy, but I feel at a big disadvantage without Marty Campion here. So I'm trying to do the best and I have the notes. Patrick had a lot of asked questions on the road and stuff like that. We've got that. So this here, the property is located right here. This one right here was approved. What's it, 6 lots in there?
6 lots.
6 lots in there, and that is gravel because the township does not want it tarred. When they had to redo Farmington Avenue, and that's where I'm at, it blew our budget, is really what goes on. So they're trying to change to this SSD, and I don't know, you guys know what SSD means? I had to look it up.
Supported Service District, where there's, the maintenance is at, the ongoing maintenance is the responsibility of the township, but any structural maintenance of the road is at the cost of the residents. So it is a township road.
Yes.
But it's funded differently than your standard government township road.
So I don't know whether to call it, that's why I said it's kind of private, but it's not because the owners are responsible for the chip and the CO. And then about every 5 years, they have to do it, was it 3 years the first time?
3 years the first time, 5 years after.
5 years after, and then 15 to 20 years when it has to be retired, or when the township deems it has to be retired at these 11 homeowners' expense.
Is that done with special assessments?
I haven't looked at the particular agreements myself. The ones that have been, I think, trying to think, the one that was pointed out, 118th Street, that was done before me occupying this chair. So I haven't read through the agreements themselves.
Dan, did you have something?
Yes, I did. A subordinate service district is not a private road at all. It's completely public. I'm on the town board of Cokato Township, and we're actually dealing with some areas like that right now. But it is a public road, and as Barry stated, any improvements to that road are borne by the taxpayer, and maintenance is borne by the township.
Okay, and I didn't know a better way to do it. It's kind of, that's why I said kind of, but we understand that it's not a private road.
And I did not see anything in the minutes or in the notes from Franklin Township on that, so.
So I have it right here in their minutes. And
They
this
didn't send me the minutes.
This was back in October. Russick will gather the SSD information for discussion at the next month's meeting. You know, so it's new to them. Frank, you know, they've never done it, so it is also new to them. But that is going to be a requirement of the township. We are fully understand that this has to be done. Otherwise, they don't want them tarred anymore. I mean, being that Delano has their new land use plan, has most of our township all covered up. On my side, where I live now, I mean, I'm gonna deal with 300 cars because they've taken everything almost all the way. They're looking at blocking streets off in the township. On Eckert Avenue, on the other side, Treetop Services is over there. The residents, we're thinking about blocking the road, but what that's gonna do is it's gonna send them all down 55th, which is my road. But you know what, we're not gonna stop growth. It's Delano and on that. But as you can see on the map, the other developments that are on Rice Lake, you know, the one directly to the east of it is right here. It's on Rice Lake. And then the other one here The one up here is on County Road 17. Now, they wouldn't be able to do that anymore because that's in Delano's land use plan. And the part when you go into a land use plan, and this is the part that really, it restricts the owner at that point, because we tried to do a piece on the other side, and the county and Delano said no because it's in our land use plan and they didn't want to see large acre lots. So when they want to annex in, they can put utilities and stuff into it on that. I'm doing the best I can too, so let me know if I'm going too fast.
No, you're doing fine.
On that. So I had some points, with the township affirming this 3 times. I am gonna leave it up to you guys. So you saw the plan with no open space, and now you see the plan in front of you with open space. The developer, Zeb, I do have direct interest in it. It can go either way. And we've heard, it had open space, some of the residents were concerned, who takes care of it when it's weedy, when it does this? So we took the open space out, and then they said, well, you're going into the wetlands. Well, it still has the same wetlands. So now, last meeting again, we brought the open space back in. The township had a couple different requests. They wanted a complete turnaround, a center island turnaround so the plow can come in, and was it left hooked or whatever they call it?
Yeah, on the left side.
Left hook with a complete turnaround. So, and they did not want the homestead touching that cul-de-sac because they didn't want the existing homestead to have 2 accesses. So on the plan in front of you, that has been resolved for the township and approved on Monday night's meeting. I talked about the adjoining properties, the developments, Barry, and not throwing you, just the email, because we seek guidance. Marty Campion was looking for guidance. The township was looking for guidance on how the open space and stuff should work here. And that is where the email that Barry did his homework and in discussion with the DNR and got back to us. And that's when we took the open space out of the plan. We don't have much for growth area. When I say we, I mean Frank. My dad was Franklin Township Supervisor for 12 years. I invested. There's no doubt what I do. It's really the only area that we have, because it is in the most southern part of Wright County. You've got Rice Lake, across Lake Wright, you got Hennepin County, and you have Carver County in order to get this. The cost, I've talked about that the township, why they don't want the roads to go through, because it is an extra 1,800 feet, a little over 1,800, so it's more than double the cost, and you don't gain any more lots because you can't put the lots in. So you asked us to look at that, and we did. A couple big things. When you stand on 110th, you can't see the home or anything because the hill goes straight up. And we got to get 250 feet away from the intersection. So then it's retaining walls, need to go in and have the road put in, and there's no homes along that 1,800 square feet, so who gets assessed for that? Who is gonna pay for that portion of the road? Because, the property owners. The other big thing is, it would split the property for the horses. So now the road's going right through it, and it splits it on both sides. So anybody walking down there has gotta walk across the road. I mean, everybody says safety, safety, safety. But I agree. So what that property does, it flows down. So not only does it flow down from the home and everything, the only flat spot on this piece of property is where we have the cul-de-sac. After that, it starts dropping off everywhere. And then the topography is up and down and side hill. So the retaining walls to put the road in, anything can be done. I know, Patrick, you said anything can be done. Yes, it can, but at an added cost of 1.1, and then who maintains it at that point? Complete turnaround, they're not gaining any more lots, so that would just be a road. And it's going to be a cut through, and that's what the township doesn't want either. They don't want people cutting through there. I did show the home, and this is just a piece of information. It's so sloped that they're concerned where they would be, that the horses would slip and fall because the slope going down in the pasture land that he has now is so great. What questions do you guys have? I know I just kind of talked and I tried to hit the points for you guys.
If you're finished, I'll open it up to the public, and then I'll bring it back up here for the board to start asking you questions.
May I just
or-
have a chance to look up the notes quick? Make sure I covered everything?
Yeah.
Yeah. Action. The SSD we talked about. You guys understand what the SSD that the town, that these guys would be responsible for? Yeah, southeast corner. Again, I'm not the engineer, but I have some notes from the engineer and slope and what it would take for the grading, for the retaining walls and stuff for their extra road to go in. So we're just over a third of a mile that would take extra road that you can't build on it because of the slope.
Okay.
So, okay, yeah, well,
If you wanna maybe have a seat and take some notes.
yeah, I'll have another chance then.
For response.
Oh, yeah,
if you
perfectly.
open.
Thank you.
You bet. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this? If so, please come up and let's try to keep your comments to 4 minutes if possible.
Hello, I'm Jeff Sullivan. I'm at 4386 115th Street Southeast. You've heard from me before. Mr. Vanderlinde talked very impassioned about some things that he feels about the township. Most of what he talked about doesn't seem to be relevant with what we're talking about today. It's never been stuff we've talked about before. I sat through those township meetings. There was no discussion about ownership of the road, no discussion about whether it's tar or gravel. There was discussion around it wanting to be a turnaround versus a cul-de-sac. Whether it goes through or not, they didn't feel it was their duty to figure that out, just whether or not they'd take over the road, and then they deal with the details of the plan after that. But any of the other kinds of things that he's talking about seem like red herrings to me for what we're looking at here. The plan that they put forth, not appreciably different from what we looked at last week. The 500-foot cul-de-sac statute still is in play. This is well longer than that, whether or not there's stuff that exists or not. It seems like something this board should reject. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else that would like to comment on this matter? Gal there, come up, give your name, please.
Hi, my name's Mary Sullivan. I live at 4386 115th Street, and my property abuts the property that's going to be developed. First of all, thank you. We've been doing this since October, so I appreciate all the work that's been put into this because there's been a lot of work. I'm going to speak for myself and my husband, who just spoke. We're very impassioned about this because obviously this impacts the existing neighborhood. The folks there's 18, I think, I can't remember exactly the number of homes. It's a community, right? So we understand that developments happen. Whether or not, how much money Franklin Township makes or doesn't make, I'm not sure that that pertains to the decision-making here. However, there's basically, I see this as two options. One, the road goes through. It's possible. Is it gonna cost more money for the developer to do? Yes, perhaps they're not gonna make as much money, but I don't think that's what we need to talk about here. The second option is the road doesn't go through and has a negative impact on the existing residents of Franklin Township and Wright County. So that's a big deal. We're not saying that it shouldn't happen. We're asking that the road goes through, so it's a benefit it's not necessarily a benefit, could be a benefit for the existing. It won't be a cut through. Mr. Vanderlee talked about it, the county talking and worried about it being a cut through. The folks who would cut through would be coming from Carver County, because he mentioned we're right on the border of Carver County. I'm not sure, if you look at 110th Street up there right now, where the property is, whoever lives on this new development, that one that was just up there, Barry. Thank you. So 110th, if the road doesn't go through, whoever's gonna live in that new development, they're gonna have to go west on 110th. They're gonna have to go south on Eckerd Avenue. They're gonna have to hook a right on 110th, and then they're gonna have to go. So no one is gonna come from Delano, cut through there to go to, if the road goes through, I'm not sure who's gonna cut through. The people in the development are gonna, not quote unquote, cut through, but they're gonna go to get to Delano if that road opens up. I'm not sure the amount of, the only people that are gonna do that would be the residents who live there. Nobody else is gonna cut through that road, and the county didn't mention anything. I've been to all the county meetings, well, they never, as far as I know, they never mentioned a worry about people cutting through. I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm very impassionate about this. I understand development, I understand Franklin Township, and they need to make money and all the stuff that's happening in Delano. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about this particular development, having the road go through. What amazes me is that from the last time we met here, I believe it was encouraged or suggested that a plan be put in place just to see for the road to go through. No plan was done. You can look at the plans that were open space, not open space, but there was no attempt to even make a plan or show you a plan to have that road go through. So that was never gonna be an option for them, and I understand that. But they didn't even make an effort to show that it was possible, that they even made an attempt that that road could go through, which it can go through. So I appreciate your time. I'd like you to think about the current existing residents of Franklin Township and Wright County when you make this decision as far as whether to approve it without the road going through. Thank you for your time.
I have a question for her.
What-
You said you went to all the county meetings. Did you mean county meetings or township meetings?
Sorry, I've been to every Franklin Township meeting except yesterday's meeting.
Thank you.
Sorry,
That's
and
what I
I've been
thought you
to
meant.
every county meeting, even when we didn't even talk, because we got pushed back. So, thank you.
I have a question.
Excuse me, wait.
Sorry.
So let's just hypothetically say that that road would go in, okay, that you guys, the neighbors all want. I've been to a lot of city council meetings, and the one thing that I hear over and over again is when the roads need to be redone and they get assessed the money to have it redone, nobody likes that amount of money. And so when you think about just the 11 houses or however many houses with that road, that's quite a bit of like road that would have to be paved that would be assessed to all of you. Now, do you know if the residents would in fact be okay to have that
I
done?
can give you a really good example. So from the 110th to all the way to where I live where we live all the way, actually it goes all the way to 110th. That road used to be gravel. The residents of 110th Street pulled together all their money to pay for that. I mean, we put extra money into have that paved, chip tar, whatever, so it wasn't gravel. So that wasn't an assessment. So yes, if the road needed to be fixed or repaired, I've lived in my current location since 2016. Our current road has never been retarred. The one that is currently it's currently tarred. It's been whatever the liquid patch with the tissue paper, that it's been done. That's it. It's never been retarred. I lived in town, and when I got assessed, I understand that. When you buy a property and you live in a home, unfortunately, taxes happen and you have to pay for that. So the answer to the question is yes, I have in fact paid for a road maintenance. Does that answer your question, or?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else that would like to comment on this matter? Come up and give your name, please.
Hi, my name is Christy Mittelstadt. I live at 4243 115th Street. I'm up here with a question and a comment. So as we were just talking about, when the road was redone, when you talk about the SSD, was it? The current owners on 115th Street, is that an SSD? Whereas we're responsible for the maintenance of the road?
That would be a question for the township as to exactly how the township is maintained and how the township handles it.
The reason I ask is when we talked about how we had to pay to tar that road and everyone got together, what we're talking about is adding all these lots. And yes, those people would be assessed, of course, to pay for the road or whatever, but not the maintenance. But what we're talking about is sending all of that traffic back through 115th Street and all the wear and tear on the road and through the building and the construction. And I know this firsthand because across the street from me is 4 lots. And all good, all fine, got a right to be there, but firsthand, all the trucks, all the dirt and everything coming in. And I know one would say, well, don't worry about that, it's bonded, right? If there's something wrong with the road, that person will have to pay for it. But we all live in Minnesota, and we all understand that when that bond is done in the winter and the summer, and as that rolls, these residents are going to be required to pay for that road with all these lots and construction coming in because we're sending it back into our neighborhood instead of back out to the direction of the main roads that's where they want to be. So I just wanted to add that and just have you consider that as a cost to the current existing owners of 115th Street.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this? Gentleman there?
I just moved in December.
Can you please give your name for the record first?
Richard Todd, 11734 Eckert. I walk my dog on Eckert every day. And from where 115th meets Eckert up to the cul-de-sac that you're going to continue from, that road is coming apart big time right now. And it's just 2 homes that are on that end of the street. Who's going to pay for it by the time they get halfway done doing this construction? That, to me, that's a huge issue, and you need to go look at the condition of the road now before any construction starts. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this matter? Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this matter? Gentleman there, please. Your name for the record.
Good evening, Billy Erickson. I'm at 4308 115th Street Southeast. Recapping, I see a few new people possibly from last time as we came up. We've heard that the extended cul-de-sac does not meet the statute of 500 feet. We know that the additional homes and stuff like going through, all we've asked for is just the road to go through. We know that it can be done. We've heard that it is not financially reasonable for the developer or the landowner to do that, so they've decided not to. We heard last time that this group said that we cannot make decisions based on the financial part of it, but what does best for the community. We've heard from the fire chief that they would like to see the road to go through because yet another cul-de-sac is a nightmare for them. We've heard from police that not running the road all the way through creates that additional time coming through, and they would like to see the road to come through. At this point, I felt like the board was pretty adamant last time that we are not to do this for a horse farm. But yet what we've heard tonight is the road will be too slippery for the horses, that it might cut a road through where the horses are gonna be. It's going to be less money for the person to sell their horse farm for. That these financial reasons, because of that, is not a good reason for them to work with the people that live here to do what's right by police, fire, and what you guys asked last time is we prefer the road to go through, yet we cannot require you to. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this? Anyone else that would like to comment? If not, we'll bring it back up here. If you want, the applicant wants to come back to the podium and have any responses to some of the things that were brought up, and then we have questions from the board, we'll go from there.
Per the township, the SSD was discussed. I have the minutes with me when it was discussed back in October. The township's exact words when we went Monday night, and they said, "What are you guys doing back here?" We feel like you guys are the guinea pigs. They say open space, no open space, you know, and that. And they want to say it's about money. We're conceding to the farm to be smaller, which is less money, 40 acres versus 18, and doing the open space. The road doesn't work for several reasons. The township doesn't want the road. That's why they've affirmed this 3 times. It's not us there begging. Last time it took us, what, 3 minutes? You know, to get it. So it's there, and I know you guys listen to the townships, and it's their request that this road be the cul-de-sac, because it's an extension of existing cul-de-sac, so it does meet the standards. On that, you know, Carver County people are gonna cut through, it's still a cut through on that. You know, doesn't matter what county they're from, they're still gonna cut through that road, and that's what the township doesn't wanna see. Like I said, for us, it makes no difference. It is a cost, not gonna hide that, because of the retaining walls, and then there's not homes during that portion of the road, so the township's gonna have to take over that and to build it with retaining walls. That's what they don't want. They spoke about it, and I might be wrong, and they can correct me. They did not pay to tar their road. The road they were talking about that was tarred, that's a blacktop oil-based chip seal with township put down. They put it down on, out by Fountain Lake, they put it down on several roads. It wasn't, that's not a tar road. Actually, if this road goes through, it loads on to a gravel road. 110th is a gravel road, and it is, like all the roads right now, it is bad. They said, who pays for it? Well, that is why the SSD. That is why the township, and we fully conceded, and that will be taken care of. We don't know how it's gonna be done, if it is going to be done in an assessment or in an association, and understand it's not a private road. I do understand, I didn't know what else to call it. So the residents are, these 11 residents are paying for that road. I don't wanna comment on the 115th, I know what it is, you know, because part of Lubin's development just happened. That's the 4 lots she was talking about, and that is a township. But that was also put in probably, I don't want to be quoted, but 15, 20 years ago on that. I can't remember, you know, and I'm not going to pick on him, I'm going to pick on Ken, because he was standing there. It's the one I remember, you know, when we stood at the end of that cul-de-sac and there was other people there. You know, they all have their 2 to 4 acres, and then the big Rompo pieces there, you know, they got what, and this is just an extension. It's what we need, and the township has approved 3 times. I don't know what else to say, or I am passionate, that's just the way I talk, so don't get all, I'm not, some people say, quit hollering at me. It's just the way I kind of am, sometimes I get passionate, so. Do you have anything to add, Kevin? You know, the road?
No, I think everything was covered.
You know, it's up to you guys. We'll keep open space if you want it. We'll make it all one as restricted piece. That doesn't matter. The road doesn't work. 1,800 square feet.
Linear feet.
1,800 linear square feet is what it
Linear
is?
feet, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll bring it up here and we'll see where we go from here.
Okay. Appreciate your guys' time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any comments, Ken?
Mr. Haney, I have a question of you, and perhaps Mr. Miller too, and I don't know, Jeff, if you're involved in this or not, but have you come to a point with the township where you have drafted a developer's agreement?
No.
Any discussions relative to that?
No.
Okay, so there was an issue brought up tonight about heavy trucks on the existing 115th or Eakin, or for that matter, Eastwood and Eckert, that construction trucks building the homes may damage that. My concern is that if those roads get beat up, who's going to pay for that? Any one of you can answer if you like.
So there's a development that happened, the lots that she was talking about, there's a bond on that road from Tom Gagne right now. So they, I'm assuming the township, so they made Tom Gagne, when he did the development, put a bond on that road, and they have not called it due. So I'm assuming the township, which we're aware of, could call for it. There is a bond on that road.
Which road you talking about?
115th. So right at, can I get an aerial? I know that Gagne, I was involved with it, and I'm pretty heavily involved with this too. I don't mean to keep stepping in.
That's all right.
On the corner, so these lots right here, oh, you can, no, my camera's not, but, the corner of your screen, there's 4 lots right there. Plus the open space I talked about is right behind it. And then there's another lot right there. And then that was the existing house that stayed. That's the development that you guys approved, and that's where 115th Street is. When Gagne did that, this was also owned by David Lubin at the time. When Gagne did that, and Tom was the one that first came in, he had other projects and he had to move on. He's got a bond on that road yet for damage, the township.
Damaged by whom, though?
Well, that's the tough part. You know, most of the homes are built.
Well, that's my point. Now, who says that bond would indemnify or the township if another developer further down 115th going up Eckert damages that?
I don't know the answer to that question, Ken. That's where I wish the engineer, this is where I'm at a little bit of disadvantage. And I'm assuming in the developer's agreement, and because everything has to go through, because all the engineering, what's all gonna be done?
The planning of the street, I mean, most of the time on the, I'm gonna say on the bond part of it, the city or the township will inspect the road before we even start any construction, and then they'll inspect after and see if there's damage. I believe the developer probably would have to pay for some of that. It's part of the bond. So if it's damaged before that.
Could you
or after
repeat
that.
that? Could you repeat that, please?
So when we start construction, so the township will inspect, they'll have their own their own engineering firm that will inspect the road before we start construction. So then after construction, we're done, they'll inspect it again. So if there's damage done, that's where the bond will come in and say, we may have to fix some of that. That may go back on the developer. We don't know that for sure until we see what the township says about it.
Thank you.
Any other comment, question? Dan, do you have something?
Well, from a township standpoint, Ken, we get involved with this quite often with the way roads are treated. And I'm convinced that Franklin Township has vetted this quite well to make sure that they're gonna have their interests in their roads taken care of. And that's their job. That's what they're there for. So I guess as far as the cul-de-sac, I brought that up at the last meeting as being an ordinance, the 500 feet. We have cul-de-sacs all over the county, 2 of them in our township that don't even meet that. And that's what this board can do. They can waive that if they choose to. I'm just, the way this has been presented by the township, I'm convinced that I would go along with them with this agreement for rezoning.
Ken, along that statement, would you like to see open space or the restricted space?
Well, looking at the first comments, they didn't want the open space, and now they've apparently shifted. However, I haven't seen any minutes on that. So I would have to go along with what their original request was, that what we have in our packet.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other comments, concerns, questions?
Pat's got something.
It's a question for Barry, or maybe one of you guys is actually better situated for it, but the cul-de-sacs that were shown up there that had previously been approved in the vicinity, out here are the PUDs that had previously been approved. Are those longer than the 500 feet?
Where are they? I have all the measurements on those.
I guess, Barry, do you have any idea there?
I believe a lot of them are,
Yeah.
if not all of them.
Measurements. If I get the camera, each one of these I have the measurements on. The camera back up.
Can you hit the dot cam?
Okay, so we'll start here, 1566. What's this one?
Fannin, that's 3218, this is this one.
Oh, I'm sorry, this one is 3,218. Fannin is 1,566. The brand-new development that's not finished yet, the gravel one, is 1,418. This is Cedar Lake that was done
2 years ago,
2 years ago.
3 years ago.
So just so you know why Kevin's here, he's done 2 of these. He's a dirt guy and I need a little bit of help, so he's put this together. 1,700 square feet or linear feet here. 2,070 here. And this was Wheeler's Ridge years ago, 2,380.
That answer your question, Pat?
Yep.
Okay. Is there any other concerns, questions by anyone?
Are the minutes that Mr. Van der Linde was talking about from the township, would, it seems to be more in-depth discussion on the cul-de-sac issue? I don't think I have that in my current packet, is that right?
Correct,
Do I have it?
because I didn't receive them.
What's the
Is it in one of our prior packets?
No.
See, Member Bravender, I'm really deferential to you with the position that you sit in. And I hear you saying you're comfortable that they vetted it. And I'm sitting here relying on sort of your hearsay to their hearsay, which,
When we're, may I speak?
Yeah.
When we're discussing the rezoning part of it, I'm assuming that the township will be putting together a developer's agreement with them. It's pretty common to do that. We've done it in our township. And in that developer's agreement, that's when they deal with how these roads are gonna be treated. And that includes the construction phase, any damages to the roads. You know, we've been through this before in our township, and that's kind of the way we've done it, and I'm assuming that Franklin would be doing the same thing.
That's what he wants to cul-de-sac.
You know, be putting together a developer's agreement. As far as the rezoning part of it, if that doesn't happen, I think this board can deal with it in the development phase. Does that make sense or help?
I mean, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're comfortable that it's going to get dealt with. And in the
One way or another, yeah.
Right, and I'm trying to understand better the township's current position that is being relayed to us saying we don't want it to go through because this board is very deferential to townships, particularly on very local issues like that. And I can't recall and don't have it in the packet that explains the rationale that it would support getting away from what our ordinance.
As to why they
tells
don't
us
want it to go through, you mean?
Right.
From our standpoint, it would depend on where that road is going. If it's gonna be an area that, say, would connect point A to point B and the cross streets, everybody would benefit from it. It may stay the way it is. If on a town board, if we had to deal with retaining walls, I would want nothing to do with that whatsoever. That's very, very expensive to deal with. When it comes to cul-de-sacs, I'm trying to think of, we're nothing not compared to Franklin Township by any stretch of the imagination, but when it comes to development, we have 2 developments that are in cul-de-sacs with homes, and they were specifically designed that way because the people wanted it. Less traffic, a lot quieter, and they're not hard for us to take care of because we don't have to deal with the slopes that we're dealing with here.
In those circumstances where you've approved them out there, are they coming off a county road, so you're looking at
One is off a county road, one is off a township road.
And at the time that you approved it, were there already developments sort of through which people would have to travel to now get to the further extended cul-de-sac?
No,
Okay.
no. It was transitional land on ag property. It was.
And the cul-de-sac was the first development out in the area, so it,
Well, there's other houses in the area, but this was a
Along the
artery. It's
road,
an
sorry.
artery off of that
Yeah.
area, yep.
I guess if I could weigh in a little bit on that. I know we've had basically something like this in Corona Township. They came in for rezoning on Sugar Lake. It was down on the northwest side there, and we were having some of the same discussions. The cul-de-sac actually that the developer wanted came within about 10 feet of the road on the other side. I mean, the property was a farm. There's a township road that came up to the farm, and the developer wanted to put in a cul-de-sac and not have a through road on it back there in that area in Sugar Lake. And this board, I recall, really wanted that hooked up as a through road for safety, for all of the things here. And I wish there was a Franklin Township supervisor here to talk to us, but at that meeting there was. And I know I was one because that's my area. I live in that area, I grew up in that area, and I was the one really pushing for that. And that supervisor got up very strongly and says the township does not want a through road. We want a cul-de-sac. And I guess I kind of view that here. We've pushed this development back to the township 3 different times already. We've had responses, and each time the township is telling us, we want this, we want a turnaround, we want a cul-de-sac. I guess we are getting it, whether they are or they're not.
Stop.
Stop.
Please.
They are getting it, and we are getting it from their minutes, is what they are sending to us that is given to the county. Whether they want it or not, they are submitting their minutes to us saying, we approve it as presented with the cul-de-sac. They have not asked for a through road that the township has in any of the packets I've read. It's a cul-de-sac, and they have approved it each time. And I was also on a township board for 14 years. I understand townships and how townships work and how roads get paid for in townships and how levies work. And again, the township has approved this. 3 different times we've come back with it, and it's been continued, and it comes back, and the township says, we approve with a cul-de-sac. They're asking for a cul-de-sac so you can turn, so the wing, I mean, they're laying the cul-de-sac out properly or asking for it. As far as what we're doing tonight, we're rezoning, and they still have to come back for final approval of this, if I'm not correct, right, Barry? Yes. So, I mean, this tonight, and what we've been working on, is just for the approval of rezoning. And if we still don't like things and they go back to the township for the final plat and the bonding and all that stuff, that's still coming yet. So,
Okay.
I guess, Andy?
When was the last township meeting that we don't have minutes for?
We don't have minutes for any of them.
Is that normal?
It depends upon the township. Some townships send minutes, some do not. I know Franklin Township in particular, a lot of our meetings are on the Thursday nights following their Tuesday meetings or Monday meetings, Tuesdays. So they don't have minutes prepared by the time they send back their response form. And so, no, for Franklin is one of those, I don't often get minutes as part of the township responses. Some we get, some we don't. I would say the vast majority, we don't actually get the minutes, we get the required response forms back.
But that's what I was going to say. We get a response form back from them approving of what has been presented.
Okay, so I'm just wondering, because hearing from the audience and with the information we have available, it seems like there must have been another meeting in there somewhere.
What I would say to that is we are getting the response form, the official response forms from the township saying we approve of this. We may or may not get minutes. Some townships give us minutes in the paragraph of the minutes pertaining to that item, some don't. They just give us a response form that we approve of this with whatever conditions.
And I apologize, I've been gone for a
Yeah,
while,
no.
but
So in this case, we don't send out a new response form every time that a continued item has been before us. And so this is I'll read to the commission the email I received Tuesday from the township. It says the motion from their meeting was, their last meeting, which would have been, I believe, the second, was motion of reaffirmation of the zoning change, suggesting a rural plan unit development that the township will preliminary accept the road if the project moves forward based on revised concept plans received on March 25th, 2024 from Kevin Miller. Motion by Newman, second by Hawkridge, approved unanimous. That is what was sent to me by the township Tuesday.
Okay,
yep.
all right. Do we have any other questions, concerns? Then I guess my next question would be, how does the board want to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Dan?
I'd like to recommend approval to the County Board of Commissioners to rezone the property from General Ag, AG, and Park Residential Recreational Shoreland S2 to Agricultural Residential AR and Part Residential Recreational Shoreland S2 and establish a rural planned unit development district PUD based on the concept plan completed by Champion Engineering Services Incorporated dated 2/16/24. Project number 24-010 because it is aligned with the goals and policy of the US Highway 12 Corridor Land Use Plan.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded.
Mr. Chairman,
Discussion.
there are two sets of plans. Which one are you specifically referencing?
I knew you were gonna ask that.
The open space or non-open, we were gonna ask the question.
I thought we decided. it
Open
was-
space or the restricted space?
Because based on this is an email that we don't have, Barry, the one that you read to us, correct?
Correct, but they received both sets of plans and they didn't distinguish between the two.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the plans without the open space, because that's what the township, pardon me?
So that would be the restricted space.
Yep.
Okay.
Because that's what the township approved on the March 15th that we have in our packet.
I mean, ultimately, the approval is based on that plan. There isn't a large difference as far as number of lots or anything else between the two plans. The road's the same, everything's the same. In the plan unit development or in the preliminary plat process, if you want to go with the open space, you can. But it should reference what specifically you are approving for. This is what you see as the concept that you are moving forward with, not that it can't change.
Thank
but
you.
just for clarification.
I'm gonna
should have it.
reference the March 5th email that we have in our packet from the township, Stephanie Russick.
And that would be referencing the restricted
Right,
space
correct.
plan. Okay,
There's no number on these plans, so I really can't tell you which one it is, but they both say concept plan, one of one.
all right. Is there any
I will
discussion?
mark that appropriate one as Exhibit A.
Okay.
Exhibit A.
Did you have something, Ken?
I did, Mr. Chair. I'm going to vote on this thing, probably in the affirmative, because the township obviously adamantly does not want that road to go through, and that was one of my main concerns. So my position would be then is that, and I don't know if we can even do this because we don't have an updated email or approval, but I much prefer the open space concept. And it does two things. It provides open space for the residents in the neighborhood there to use, plus it reduces the size of the horse farm. So I guess, and I would hate to vote against this simply because we're looking at only one option, either restricted or open space. So I don't know how that could be
I
directed.
I guess on that, as of right now, we have a motion for the restricted. And we have two options. We have one for open space and we have one for restricted space. And the motion in a second is for restricted.
I understand that, Mr. Chair. Is there any point in the future when we do look at, we do have to prove these plats, don't we? Or take another look at them at some point in time?
After rezoning is approved at the county board level, they would submit an application for a preliminary plat. The actual subdivision request comes at the next
And would
phase.
we have an opportunity to comment on that?
Yes.
Okay,
So I may still have a opportunity to vote for the open space concept.
yes.
Okay, very well. Thank you for the clarification.
Any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way?
I,
Mo- Right. Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right,
We'll
thank you.
see you guys back. Can I ask a question? May I ask a
Open
question?
space.
You want us to talk to the township about the open space and see what they recommend too?
You will, yeah, you will need to go back to the township.
We
as
know
part of the
that,
next
but,
request.
okay, well.
I
we'll get them to
would
do it.
recommend you get that clarification from them.
Okay, 100%. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, number 2 on the agenda tonight is Chip Bauer.
I can take that, Mr. Chairman, yes. Mr. Bauer has requested withdrawal and has assigned the appropriate document for that request. So there's a motion in your packet.
All right, do I have a motion or any discussion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries. Number 3 on the agenda tonight is James Dorn. You want to come up to the podium and give your name, and we will get started.
My name is James Dorn from Delano. Can I bring these up to the podium?
Yeah, let's let Barry get us going first, and then we'll go
Okay.
from there.
If it's something I don't have, you have to give a set to me.
Okay.
Is it all one packet? That's all the same, okay. Yeah, which we have these. No, we don't have all of them, no, I'll take it. Okay, yes, Mr. Chairman, this property is a 29.9 acre site along US Highway 12. It is currently in the long-range plan for agricultural residential, but is currently zoned general agriculture. The request is for a home extended business for used car sales that would take place within an existing building on the site, as well as some requested outdoor display and storage area. The business plan has been provided to the commission. They're looking at Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. types of operation or by appointment. We did receive approval from Franklin Township, and their recommendation was for a 1-year IUP with limit to 8 cars. So that's what I got. The rest, like I said, is in your packet. I do have some information and some slides for the board. As you are aware, with home extended businesses, they are required to be 500 feet from any nearest resident, which is met in this case. Here's the proposed location, as well as the outdoor fenced area.
Okay, thank you, Barry.
And then I will distribute what was handed.
Barry, did you say IUP?
Yes.
Okay, because this says CUP, that's why I asked.
First two, I'll start one down here.
Does that make a difference?
Okay, if you wanna Tell us what you're up to.
Okay, just this past Monday night at Franklin Township, what we talked about and agreed upon, I asked if we could have a matter of 6 to 10 cars out so I can have exposure close to Highway 12. We actually own like 29 acres there, so there's no neighbor on the north, no neighbor on the east, no neighbors on the west. I have nice frontage. I know it's an agricultural zoning and stuff. I'm asking for Wright County's approval. It's not going to be a big dealership. I had a dealership in Delano for like 40 years. When COVID come, it got very difficult to buy vehicles. A couple of friends of mine approached me, wanted to know if I wanted to retire, and I said, you hit me at the right time. Cars were very expensive, so I thought maybe there's a good time to sell and retire. I retired and I'm kind of bored, so I want to get back into it. And one thing that I told Franklin Township too, it's not going to be a Luther or Walls or anything like that. If I could have permission to have 20 to 25 vehicles. I do have outbuildings, like you see. There's like 5 different buildings. I've got 2 60 by 100-foot pole buildings made by Morton. All the cars would not have to be outside. I have adequate blacktop driveway and parking space that we did years ago. We blacktopped. The biggest thing, I guess my biggest wish is if I could have some exposure so when somebody drives by, they can see my inventory or part of it. And we do have an adequate building for what you required.
So the thing would be with this, Mr. Chairman, in Mr. Dorn's asking or indicating he's got more indoor storage space, it couldn't be approved tonight if he wants to use those buildings, because the home extended business is strictly limited to 2,000 square feet. It also is supposed to limit exterior storage. And so by granting exterior storage, that's fuzzy on what the minimum requirements are. And I mean, this is a conversation Mr. Dorn and I had. A full-fledged dealership at a location like this is something that isn't allowed in the district at all. The only way it's here is because we can tie it into a building for some of his inventory with limited outdoor storage. So the commission should be extremely careful on what you're looking at as far as granting for that outdoor storage. I'm not saying some visibility isn't something that should be done, but I mean, the 18 rules for home extended businesses include indications of limited or outdoor storage, fenced areas where there is outdoor storage. So keep that in mind as you're reviewing.
Thank you, Barry. Anything else you'd like to comment?
So did you say that the buildings wouldn't do me any good as far as, if I had 25 vehicles and you approved for 20 outside, wouldn't I be able to put that an extra 5 inside the building so they wouldn't be outside? I guess I'm kind of.
Well, you want my opinion. If you would have came to me and said, I want 25 cars outside, I wouldn't even have let you apply, because it's not a home extended business. It doesn't meet the rules and definitions. You said a limited area, you had a small area for outdoor storage of vehicles, and you were gonna go have an interior portion of a building you were gonna use. So now what I'm hearing you state up here is different than what I had talked to you and your assistant about for the scope of this business.
And the only reason I mentioned the buildings is in case you said, we'll approve 20, but if you have 25, what would I do with the other 5? I wouldn't buy it if you set a limit on 20, and you're okay with me. I have plenty of parking space for 20 cars. I have plenty of parking space for 30 cars on the blacktop outside. My idea was, if you okayed a number saying 25, I could put 5 under a roof so they wouldn't be seen.
You do realize we had a response back from the township that it would be limited to 8 cars.
8 cars out front by Highway 12.
Yeah.
I think that's total.
No, it does say parked on the road.
Oh,
So it doesn't have a number from the township for quantity. But a 2,000 square foot building only holds
Yeah, a couple
just
cars.
a couple cars.
Yeah.
Doesn't hold very much.
No.
So, do you have anything else? I know before we get too much discussion up here, I'll open it to the
No,
public.
I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, let me open it up to the public if you want to have a seat and see if there's
Okay.
anybody that has any comments here. Does anyone have any comment or anything to comment on this item? If not, there's nobody from the public that wants to comment, we'll bring it back up here. Guess if you want to come back up, does anybody here from the board have any concerns, questions?
Mr. Chair, Barry, is home extended business the only area within the ordinance where this could fall under?
No, it can be located in any of our commercial or industrial districts. Auto sales lots are allowed in the commercial and industrial district.
I'm sorry, run that by me again?
Auto sales lots are interim uses in the B1, B2, and I1 districts.
Anything else?
Yeah, so in this case, you know, I'm looking through it, 155.103 is all work and work-related items shall be kept in an enclosed structure. In very limited circumstances, the planning commission may allow for storage of items in a fully enclosed fence. Trees, plants, and bushes do not qualify as fencing, but these items may be required as part of an overall landscaping plan. 2 parking spaces per employee, excessive noise, lot coverage, capable of supporting on-site sewer. Working hours to be set by the planning commission. The building shall be no larger than 2,000 square feet. Buildings must conform to present buildings and to the neighborhood. You know, in this case, based on the narrative in my discussion, the extent of what was just described here was not what was described to me when we looked at this process. So I'm a little bit taken back by now I want, you know, 20, 25 vehicles outside on display at all times. I would have called that an auto sales lot, not a home extended business, and would have rejected the application up front if that is what had been explained to me.
Okay, hold on. Why?
Because that's an auto sales lot. Auto sales lot is not a permitted, conditional, or interim use in
On
the ag district.
because it's 8 cars or 10 cars or 12 cars or 14 cars. Where's the cutoff? And I'm not, Barry, I'm not trying to say like I don't disagree with you, because I'm looking at other problems with the home extended business ordinance where it says shall be enclosed, the work and the work materials shall be in an enclosed building. And then it says in very limited circumstances, you can put it all inside of an enclosed fence, which would not be the sort of exposure that an auto sales dealership needs. And so I guess that's a point I'm trying to make, but also a question to you, like what's the difference? 8 cars, 15 cars?
Well, to me, it's about, it's about, yeah, there is a level here of outside display. Now there again, the outside display wasn't really, it was explained that you must use the building. And so my understanding was although there might be 1 or 2 cars outside, it wasn't, I want 20 inventory sitting in a lot. It was, I'm gonna have some cars in the building, it's gonna be a small, I wanna pare down from my dealership. To me, that level is not, I'm doing this as a, you know, display a few cars and maybe sell 1 or 2 here and there. This is, I want a full-time sales lot, which that's not what was explained to me.
Where's the cutoff?
Interpretation, Mr. Chairman. You know, I can't tell you, like I said, our member Malberg is exactly right. There are some ambiguities in the home extended business language in our ordinance. It doesn't necessarily define exactly what kinds of businesses can or can't be run out there. We run the gamut from one we recently had where you have a small CNC shop. We have beauty salons that are run as home extended businesses, and there's no real definition on what that is. And so I try to err on the side of let the planning commission figure it out. But when I have something that is going to rival any other business that we see in a commercial and industrial district for exterior display, potential traffic, those types of things, I'm going to err on the side of what the ordinance says, which is that's an auto sales lot that is beyond what I would see as, well, this is just going to be a wind down part-time thing. When it comes to the exterior display portion. There again, if the building can have 20 cars in it and he wants to bring people in and post the cars online, I mean, that's what I see is, okay, I'm going to maybe have a few cars outside, 1, 2, 3, say 5, and I'm going to post pictures of cars online and sell them on Marketplace or whatever else. That's more of what I saw as this. It's not a full-time sales lot.
And excuse me, I use that number just, threw that number out. I'm not asking to have 20 or 25 cars. I can get by with 15. What we talked about at Franklin Township, I said 6 to 10 cars, would that be okay to have out front? And we agreed, we come to a number of 8. They mentioned that, and I said, I'm perfectly fine with that. If you folks said, 15 is the limit, I'm fine with that. I'm here for your mercy. I'm at your mercy. I want, I'd like to get some answers. April, May, June is the best quarter I ever have. When the people start getting the tax money back, I start to sell cars. This is my prime time coming up. From here, if this is okay, I go to the state of Minnesota. So time is kind of important right now. Like I say, I'm not going to have 50 cars coming in a day. It's just going to be, I'm going to be there every day, but we're not going to have traffic like Ryan does here in town. They got 1,000 cars where I would maybe have, picking a number of 15.
Right, Mr. Chair, I'd like to address the applicant with a few questions. What typically would be your days and hours of operation?
As far as work goes?
Yeah, selling cars. In other words, when could the public come into your?
I would be there like from 8 till 5 or 8 till 4 at least. I live right there, so I mean it's.
Sure. And what days would that occur?
We're usually open Monday through Saturday.
Okay. And do you have any employees?
I have one part-time girl that does my paperwork and title work.
Okay.
She comes in on Saturday.
All righty. And you understand, if I understand this correctly, is that you could have more cars either inside the building or on somewhere else on the property behind a fence?
Well, a fence was mentioned, and I think it was like, I think it was maybe like 38 by 62, and that was, I'm not sure if that's the correct measurements, but they said maybe the surplus cars could go in the fence.
Sure, okay. Am I correct in saying that, Barry, that he could have additional cars behind a fence or in a building for sale, but just not displayed?
Well, the building limit is 2,000 square feet. So there's the building.
Okay, so let me just keep it simple here. He could have more cars behind a fence. Correct?
Let me read, again, the exact verbiage of the ordinance. Is all work and work-related items shall be kept in an enclosed structure. In very limited circumstances, the planning commission may allow for the storage of items in a fully enclosed fence.
Okay, thank you. All right. Do you foresee changing oil in the cars? You have to
No.
get rid of oil, batteries, that sort of thing?
I'm glad you asked that. There won't be any service work. The only thing I'd like to do is, the cars are gonna get dusty. I like to keep them washed and waxed. There's no service work at all. I'm not a mechanic, so.
All right, do you plan on having a sign? Of course, that would be helpful.
Sign would be very helpful.
All righty. Okay, so let's say you're limited to 8 cars on display near the highway.
Okay.
You're okay with that? That's what you talked with the township?
Yes.
6 to 10, you said. I think you guys settled on 8.
Yes.
All right. And then what would you say if you had an additional fenced area that enclosed cars for sale? Would 15 to 20, or would you settle for 15 back there?
In a heartbeat, in a heartbeat. How can I say this? I'm not doing it to make a living. I already made my living. I've been doing this for 51 years by myself. This, I don't know if you guys had the same problem, but when you're used to going fast all week, and then when you retire and it just slows down to nothing.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Not for me.
All right. Okay. Anyway, I'm doing this kind of like a hobby. I'm going to make a profit.
All right.
On everything I sell, I hope, but it's not going to be the pressure saying you got to pump 30 cars a month out.
Well, I'm very familiar with your operation when you were in Delano.
Okay.
Until the highway department came along and stole some property from you.
I remember that.
Remember, okay. All right, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, Member Felder, rather than number of cars, why don't you just designate an area by size? And whatever number can fit in that can fit in that. That would be more appropriate, because if you just say outdoor area, well, what does that mean? And so clearly defining that fenced area, which is what is on the plan that you have in front of you, would be the more appropriate action than necessarily number.
Okay, and then what size is that area that would be presumably fenced off if it's visible?
32 by 60 is what's there.
And that would hold, let's say 15 cars?
I'm not going to get into the numbers of cars that could hold.
I would say 10 would be closer.
But that's going to reduce the total number of cars on your property then to maximum 18.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
That okay with you?
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right, well then,
They can kind of feel you're leading up to a motion. Could
yes, I am.
I
Could
have
I?
a question though.
Yeah, ask a couple of questions. I'll go to Sandy first. Can you hold your motion?
Sure.
Sandy?
How many cars do you have out there now?
Now,
Do you live at 3644?
yes, yeah. I actually have 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're selling them and have an employee, you said?
Actually, they're not, no employees, and there's no sign or there's no for sale signs on any of them. They're all back off the highway. They're behind my house, in between my buildings. It's actually in the, I call it a parking area because it's a blacktop area. But there's nothing out by the highway, and there's no for sale signs or nobody, well, I shouldn't say that.
You said you had one employee and she's there Monday through Saturday.
Or no, that would be me, but my lady would come in on Saturday only and do book work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Misunderstood, because I thought you said she comes in on Saturdays.
Yeah, she does
Like
come.
she's already an employee.
I'm sorry, I probably explained that the wrong way, but she only comes in to do the paperwork.
Okay.
One other question I have, Barry, let's say he doesn't use that building, or let's say he does use the building. What's the reason for a building inspection?
Because as a commercial building, it has different codes than a storage building.
Has different what?
Building code.
Building codes.
So, I mean, I guess I'm kind of confused why a inspection.
It's a conversion of an existing storage building or agricultural building. I'd have to look at which way it was permitted into a commercial space.
Who says there's going to be a commercial space?
The fact that he's going to be operating a business in it, and the business does not have to mean the public goes into it.
his extra storage space is outside, I thought. What, are you gonna use that building for anything related to this enterprise?
The building they're talking about, the 2,000 square foot
Yes.
building, I have one vehicle in there right now. And then it's all cemented and. you
Okay,
know,
so there is a connection there between your use of the building and this application?
There must be in order to make this application.
Okay, very well.
Still can.
Got it.
Come with one more question to Barry. Do we have, I've been letting you go, but I've been wanting to get this out. Do we have any type that we have permitted in the county, this type of a sales lot in ag land? I guess I look at most of the conditional use permits that I can recall being a part of. We've always required things to be inside. You know, we'd allow like 1 or 2 trailers outside, conditional use permits on electrical companies out in ag land. I mean, we've always wanted everybody with a conditional use permit to be putting things undercover, out of the way, and all of that. Now we're talking about 8 cars out front, plus another 15 cars in the back parked around. And that's not to say anything about his personal cars. I mean, how many cars are you gonna allow on the property if they're for sale? He can come in with 15 personal cars and family and be parked there. We gotta kind of clarify this and what kind of a Pandora's box we're opening up. It makes me nervous because I've sat here for a long time and conditional use permits usually have to be inside someplace or back behind, or we're really restrictive with construction. How many trailers are you gonna have? It's gotta be parked in a certain area. I mean, we're very concerned in neighborhoods and different things, and now we're looking at 8 plus 15 is 20-some cars there. You have personal cars, you have somebody else coming in. You're gonna have 35 to 40 cars on that property. Let's be honest.
I don't think so, but you'll have a
Well, you have
chance to.
personal.
I'm gonna probably make a motion here, Mr. Chair, very quickly. And you have an option to discuss
Yep.
number of cars and conditions, or even vote against my motion.
I would suggest we let the discussion continue on the other members. We've only had, very limited members chime in. Before we get a motion, let's have discussion with other members
Well,
as well.
no problem with me. I'm not gonna
Yeah, no.
jump in it
that's fine.
without hearing. If anyone else has to make a comment, please do it before my motion. But I had a question here now. I can't remember what it was. So go ahead, Mr.
So to answer Mr. Chair's question first, not that I can recall, but as I mentioned in reading the rules and definitions, it is the planning commission may. It's not staff is going to dictate what may or may not be allowed. So there again, I don't know how other administrators previous to me did it, but that's how I read it. In terms of have we ever, I can't say that. Again, most of my experience with the Planning Commission has been in the last 3 years. Not that I'm unaware of what the Planning Commission has done in the 22 years prior to that, but I don't have a running knowledge of the habits of the Planning Commission prior to that. I didn't research all of our home extended businesses to find out what we have or haven't done over the past, say, decade or more. My experience in the past 3 years has been, no, we've had situations where there's limited outdoor storage, where we've allowed, fenced-in storage areas and those types of things. So that's that's the answer to your question that I have.
Okay, thank you.
Could I just say, to clear something up, we were talking 8 cars out front for show and 10 cars inside the fence, so we're talking 18. And if you said 18 is the limit, 18 is the limit. I can live with that. I can live with 15. But I can assure you, there's not gonna be 35.
Okay.
Yeah. If you go by my house, you'll see it's nice, neat, and clean. I keep my stuff. If my dealership in Delano for 40-some years, we had the nicest dealership around.
Yep, but you have to understand, not that we set a precedent, but if we allow you, then all of a sudden, somebody else just down the road on ag land can start, we've allowed it once, somebody else comes in and asks for it, and they may not do business like you do.
Sure.
They may be selling a different style of vehicle, they may what's,
I
everybody
understand.
has a different outlook on things, and
Yeah.
we have to sit here and try to maintain the ordinance, interpret the ordinance.
Sure.
And go from there.
Yeah,
So,
I understand.
Janice,
Well, from your drawing here that you see on the screen back there, where is your house? Can you explain where your house is? Is it at the bottom of the page? Is it at the top of this page? Where's the road from here?
Actually, the house,
Okay, now I see it, okay.
There's the road, and the house is right here.
yeah, it's right to the left, the first building to the left of the driveway there.
Yeah, can you put it back to the other one, Barry, please? So you're proposing to have 8 cars sitting out next to the highway.
Yeah, I would have to stay back, I don't know what it is, 60 feet from the center line. But there's 2 evergreen trees right there right now, but it'd probably be, 60 feet back from the center line. I have plenty of room, there's plenty of land.
Which way from the road? Is it to the, which way is north on this, Barry? Is it?
North is up.
North is up, okay. Is it to the west then is where you're planning to put these cars?
That would be east of the driveway, ma'am.
East of the driveway?
Yes.
It looks like a pond there or something?
That's way down, that's probably 200 yards away. The land kind of slopes down and there's like a small pond.
Okay, so it would be
This would be maybe
right there.
10 feet away from the driveway, east of the driveway would be the first car.
Okay, and where would you put your sign?
I'd like to put it on one of the big buildings that's straight ahead of the driveway.
How
Be
big,
it-
I mean, we have no control over signs, and I suppose that's another department, but it seems like this is getting to be quite a commercial establishment than in a ag district. And I'm with Dan, we've said no to a lot of things that had a commercial impact on an agricultural area. And so I guess I'm probably not in favor of granting the permit myself, so you haven't convinced me yet that this is not going to be a deterrent to the surrounding property owners. They're used to seeing ag land, it's zoned agricultural, and all of a sudden now it's going to be giving a definite commercial look to the property. And with the signage and everything, I'm just not all in favor of doing this.
I really don't have any neighbors close. There's nobody on the south. There's nobody on the north for a quarter of a mile, maybe a half a mile.
Well, it
To-
says that one neighbor, the neighbor over here on, what is this street?
He would be at least a quarter of a mile away, either way going down Highway 12.
It
There's
says
no-
843 feet.
Pardon me?
It says 843 feet.
Maybe from my west property line.
Well, maybe you can help me out, Barry. Which is that 843.8, 843.8 measurement.
what's the question about that?
Isn't that going up next to a residential neighborhood?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes, it is.
that is an R1, an old R1 plat, 1 acre lots.
okay? Dan,
Mr. Chair, I've been kind of quiet up till now.
it's your turn.
I went through this process 20 years ago with home extended business. When it comes to the spirit of the business, the spirit of our business was retail inside of a building. That was what our desire was. Retail for car sales inside of a building is pretty tough. I think of the area that we cover with our home extended business versus what he wants to do. It's similar in area size because of what we have for cars out in front of our business every day. And it's up to 8 cars a day. it's a tough one for me because to me, this doesn't fit inside the box of a home extended business.
I guess a response to that, as far as a home and business in today's times, things 20 years ago, it may be a completely different conversation here, but in today's times with the internet and how you buy things and do all that stuff, this could potentially be inside a building. It's all done on the internet. Pictures are all taken. People come there. They come in just like they come to your business and walk inside to buy whatever they buy. Here too, they could come inside to a building, buy a car in the building, do your paperwork, and drive the car out. I guess that's where, I'm not against the business in ag land. It's just that we've always had things, tried to permit things with conditional use permits to keep things neat and tidy. So
Right.
that it isn't turning into a used car lot or a bad thing.
And I think we can do that with restricting the amount of vehicles on the property. Because one thing about the home extended business is one of the purposes of the sizes are that when it gets big enough that it can't be handled in a home extended business situation, it has to move to a commercial area because of the impact on the neighborhood. And I look at foot traffic, and I think if we were to permit, say, 15 cars total on the property with 5 out on the highway and the rest of them inside of a fence, I don't think that would generate a lot of foot traffic where it'd be a big impact on the neighborhood. That's my opinion.
Chairman, I agree with Dan. I was thinking too, just the 5 in the front, because and then, just a limited, 10 or 15 in an area. Because I've looked at the property and, it is nice and clean, a lot of places to hide cars. So I think too, just very low impact, and like you said with the internet, it's easy to, swap those out and do it from a home standpoint, so.
But would they be inside or inside of a fenced area?
I would say a fenced area, because you can't put them in the sheds, correct?
Well, in one, there's one that meets the size requirements.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, that's,
And it's zoned that way or coded that way?
well, like I'd mentioned previously, I mean, there is a change in use that would be needed for it, but it meets the size requirements. And so if you want to set that type of condition on numbers, it would be, okay, if you want to go with the 5 up by the road, total cars on the property not to exceed X must either be in the building or in the fenced area. I mean, we just heard from a mechanic guy that he didn't want any cars outside due to weather, so it's one of those, I wouldn't exclude the ability to use the building that is designated. Anything beyond that would need a variance to exceed the 2,000 square feet if it was moved into one of the other buildings and everything was inside.
Janice?
I would just like to respond. Dan has a very wonderful home occupation going at his site, but he has all of his merchandise is inside the building, and yours is going to be outside, and you're proposing to have 8 cars facing Highway 12, and then you could have possibly 15 cars show up that all want to buy that one car that they see shining out there. And
Not really.
But I mean, it's possible. It's possible that somebody could come. And so the idea of Dan having 8 customers coming in to his site is a little bit different than yours. Now, when if you would be putting your cars into this pole shed over here, you wouldn't let any customers come into that building, right? Is that what you're proposing?
Well, if I knew they were coming in after a certain car and the car was in the building, I'd have it outside ready to show instead of taking them inside the building, if that's what you're asking.
Where are they going to complete the paperwork?
Pardon?
Where are they going to complete the paperwork?
I have an office set up right in my house, right when you walk in, where all the paperwork is, titles and.
Well, I'm not a lawyer or anything, but if you're bringing people into a building where it's used as for commercial business, what Barry said earlier, and I would question this, this is a question for you. Do you know if you would have to have like fire extinguishers, and if you're going to have people actually coming in to do business in your lot?
Not in the outbuildings.
Not in the outbuildings, you're sure?
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't, what, the biggest problem is they have dirt floors and the cars get dusty in there. So if I had an appointment, somebody's coming out this Saturday, I'd get the car washed up. I have another building that's clean, that's got cement floor. I'd put it in that so it stayed clean until Saturday. Saturday morning, I'd put it out, and then hopefully they show up.
But the inventory cannot be located in those other buildings.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, if you'd be happier, I have room behind these buildings. I have two 60 by 100-foot Morton buildings. I could put 10 cars behind them, and there wouldn't be any in my parking lot at all.
So now there again, so one of the problems is that's not within that designated area. So the only stuff related to the business can be in the areas designated on this plan. It would not allow cars to be located anywhere else, but in those areas. Couldn't be in the other buildings, couldn't be parked behind those buildings because that's not part of the designated plan.
Okay, it was just a suggestion. I'm just looking for answers.
How many cars can you fit in that shed with the dirt floor?
The little shed?
The one that you would keep most of your inventory in, that's approved, right? There's one that
One building that meets size.
one building that meets code.
The one well, I don't know if it meets code or not. He'd have to get that inspection to find
two.
that. But it meets the size requirements of a home extended business, and that's the green outlined building on this plan. This is what was provided to us.
Okay, and 2 cars can fit in that pole building.
Yes.
I have a question. I'm still trying to understand, you're currently selling cars. What made you come here tonight?
Well, the state of Minnesota, what happened is when I sold my business in town, now I have a new location. In order to have a new location, I have to reinstate a new dealer's license. In order to get a new dealer's license, I gotta get Franklin's Township's okay, and I have to get Wright County's okay. If you guys give me the okay, then we can go down tomorrow to the state of Minnesota, and they'll issue me a new 2024 dealer's license for 3644 US Highway 12 instead of 101 Babcock, which is Highway 12. So whenever you make a move, they want to know, and they want you to respond to their request, and that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to have everything legal, and I've never did this before. It used to be simple because I had a commercial location. Now that it's agriculture, I have to get permission from both Wright County and Franklin Township.
When did you move?
Pardon?
When did you move from Delano to 36?
It's been a little over 2 years ago.
And you haven't needed your dealer's license since then?
Yeah, actually, I wasn't. When I sold my business, I pretty much retired. So cars weren't part of my life like they are now.
Okay.
And Barry, there's no way those 2 buildings couldn't be hidden in those sheds.
Not according to the rules for a home extended business. If he would have came in and said, I want to use those buildings, I would have directed him towards the variance board to apply for a variance to operate in above the 2,000 square foot limitation. But that's not what was brought to me. Because the limit for a home extended business is 2,000 square feet.
Good.
We've heard variances on those before, the county has.
And to go through the process, like he says, he's gone to the township for the state, he's gone to the township. to satisfy the state, he's got to get the county's permission, which would be a conditional use permit.
Sure.
And what Barry was presented with is the number of cars in the smaller building, and according to our ordinance, you can only put it in that smaller building that is 2,000 square feet. A 2,000 square foot building is going to only handle maybe 3 or 4 cars max. and you
Business
can't
plan
move
says
around them.
4, comfortably.
So you can fit 4 cars in that size of a building. And if he would have come in and says, I want to do this business and I want to have this many cars, and Barry would have understood, or he would have made it clear as to what he was asking Barry for. Barry would have instructed him to go to one of these 60 by 100 foot buildings, come to the Board of Adjustments, ask the Board of Adjustments for a variance. The Board of Adjustments may or may not have given him a variance to do business in one of these pole sheds. And then from that pole shed, you know, getting a variance, if he would have approved for the variance, he would have had to come here and says, the Board of Adjustments has given me approval to go into one of these bigger sheds. And then we'd be sitting here maybe with a little different conversation, because he'd be telling us, I want to put 8 cars out by the road. I want to have 15 cars in this 100 by 60 pole shed. Everybody will be picking things up from the internet. I will be posting pictures on the internet. The only cars that'll be parked in my yard are the customers. They will go into the building. I will sell them a car in the building. You know, then it's a whole different narrative than what we are hearing now with 15 cars out front, 8 cars up by the highway.
Can we push this to the Board of Adjustments to see, are we allowed to do that, to get a variance?
Well, there's timeframe issues that then come into that. Because we have statutory timeframes.
But if he waived those?
You certainly could, but we also don't have a date specific for it. So what public hearing are we gonna put him on? I don't have that. Because we gotta get all the proper materials submitted for that application within respective timelines for those applications. It's not impossible, but it's not something we typically go through. The way to do it would be to probably dismiss and reapply, because now what's the situation if the Board of Adjustment doesn't approve it? Or, you know, alters it? Now we have a completely different plan that gets submitted here.
Oh, I gotcha. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Could we at this time say 5 cars out front, 4 cars in the, you know, in or in around the shed that's approved, with then, if he wants to expand, come back and get a variance for those sheds?
Well, that's definitely a possibility. It's no different than anything else that we see where, you know, the condition would be if you expand, you have to come back here. So there would still be 2 hearings. So you'd have to then go to the Board of Adjustment for that and then come back and reapply to amend his existing permit.
But in that case, though, if we did it at a small scale, he could at least get his dealership license and start the process, correct?
Sure.
Jeannie, you could also do 5 out by the road, 4 in the pole building, and 10 in the fenced area, which puts you at 18.
In a fenced area, what are we going to define as a fenced area? Because there is no fenced
Isn't
area
that
there.
the red
Yeah.
spot we're showing here? Isn't that the proposed fenced area? That's what it says. 32 by 60 proposed fence area.
How high of fences do we need? Because that's part of what the commission will have to put on it. We have to come up with, do we need 7-foot fences?
I'd be more comfortable with the small scale and no fences, and then get variances for the shed. You have 2 sheds, correct?
Pardon me?
You have 2 of those sheds, or just one big?
No, I have 2, actually, there's 5 different buildings on that property. The 2 biggest ones are 60 by 100 feet.
Okay, and how many cars could you put in there?
Oh, man.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
30 in each building, easy.
Yeah,
I have a 50 by 100. You can put a lot of vehicles in it.
okay. Well, I think if we, I like the idea of it being contained. I'm not a big fan of fencing, because then I feel like it can spill out and then look like a junkyard.
Yeah, and one of the problems is unlike PUDs where the planning commission has some ability to create variances for lot standards, that same authority does not extend to this portion of the ordinance. Only the Board of Adjustment can grant the variance to that 2,000 square foot standard.
Mr. Chair, I'm only going to layer on an editorial comment on Barry's interpretation of this, which is, I don't disagree with Barry that there's not discretion to do that. And I think that our attempt to design a good business in the agricultural area, laudable as it is, and as in support of Mr. Dorn's auto sales business as it is using, if it's an affirmative vote, is using this application to carte blanche, pick what we want out of the home extended business ordinance in ways that absolutely do not line up with the way that we treat other businesses that ask for storage outside. You come in and applicants come in and they have the contractor's yard, and we give them holy heck about an extra trailer being outside, and you better build a fence around that trailer. That's my whole editorial.
Well,
I think we've gone over this a million times, and we can do a motion that has the conditions, and you can talk through that if it goes that way. But to me, this approval, good as the business is, means it's fairly hollow talk when we're telling other people, be careful what you put outside and make sure you put a fence up.
Clearwater Township, State Highway 24, last year, they were storing pontoons outside for their conditional use permit. We made them build a pole shed. There's nothing sitting outside anymore, but we forced them to build a pole shed to store their stuff inside. And I guess that's part of where I'm coming from. We've done plenty of other conditional use permits, and like Pat has said, we raised Cain with them. And I know for a fact, we had pontoons stored outside for several years, and we sat here and we made them build a pole shed. So I'm just trying to keep, for me, staying in line with what I've done in the past and voted.
Would you be willing to say, this is what we want? I mean, I'm awfully easy to agree. I want this or I wouldn't be here. I appreciate all your comments and concerns. But, you know, if you say 15 cars and no more, I'm okay with that. If you want them inside a fence, I need exposure out on 12. If you want the rest of them in a fence, I'll put in a fence. It's not a problem. I got plenty of room. The room and the neighbors shouldn't be a concern. I'm like I'm out in an island. You know, I don't have neighbors close that are going to be looking and say, oh, he's got 15 cars there today. He's going to call and complain. I mean, I'm not close to anybody. It's farmland, farmland, farmland.
That could always change too once they're on display out by the highway. Just saying.
Right.
Mr. Chair,
Ken?
without getting too detailed on this, we've got, where what I propose in my motion is going along with the township suggestion that they want to review this after a year. I mean, come on. Let's say this thing turns bad, okay, which I highly, highly doubt. We've got the township that can come in here and say, hey, look, this guy's really got a mess out there. It's not working out. They have the ability to come back here and inform us, and his permit is more likely gone. Another thing I'm in support of this, if you look right across the street, we've got some industrial area. If you look across the street, it might be a home now or a farmland, but that is transition into the city of Delano in the future. Okay? We've had a county commissioner reside up on this commission at a time. And I think there's probably still one more that supports this whole Highway 12 corridor should be business and retail. I don't necessarily subscribe to that notion, but here we are, home extended business. We've got the flower farm, or formerly flower farm, across the street. This is an industrial, so to speak, area. I don't see anything wrong with this gentleman's request, and he's more than willing to work with us just so he can get his license. I'm going to propose a motion here, and I'm going to throw some numbers out, and that's the point in time I think where this commission can sit and discuss the details of it. So if we could just kind of move on, we've got other people here waiting tonight for their petitions. So let's don't, overthink this thing. I mean, there are some avenues out of it. The avenue out of it, my motion, proposed motion, is for you guys to modify it, okay, if you wish, or discuss it anyway. Another way out is the township has some say in this, because they're going to be observing. And you know what? People are going to drive by. They're going to say, hey, there's a car. I'm going to stop. They're going to drive by. Nah, I'm going out to Waverly to go eat some popcorn or something. I mean, it's not that. It's not going to make people slam on their brakes, I don't think. And yes, you're correct, Dan, in your assertion that we may be settling or setting a precedent here. And I don't want to go there either. I don't want to get too extended out there where, hey, everybody in the county is now going to want to do this. But in this particular place, this particular location, considering the surrounding area, east, north, and west, and the industrial area to the south, it seems like a natural fit to me. And I happen to be acquainted to this guy 20-some years ago, and I never forgot his name, because I knew he run a decent, fair, clean operation. I have no problem supporting what this guy wants, but there again, I don't want to venture into an area where we're opening up the rest of the county for such things. And I think we have the right as a commission to, in very limited circumstances, to tweak that ordinance, what appear to be on the surface to be a violation of the ordinance. We have the right, and perhaps you may even want to call it obligation, to go beyond that if we deem so. So anyway, if everyone else, and Chairman, if everyone's ready, I'm ready to make a motion.
Have a motion, and we'll have discussion again if necessary.
All righty. Mr. Chair, I would move to approve an interim use permit for a home extended business for used car sales in accordance with the discussion, plans, and description held on file with the following conditions. The days and hours of the operation shall be Monday through Saturday, 8 to 5. No more than one employee in addition to the owner-operator and family members residing in the homestead. Regarding outdoor storage, I would propose that we allow outdoor storage of cars that are not under display in the number of 10. In other words, back by the, if I might editorialize, back where the plan showed those cars, 10 cars back there, outside storage, surrounded by a 6-foot fence. Okay. The operator must properly dispose of or recycle all waste from business. Signage on site must be in accordance with the county sign regulations. A satisfactory building final inspection is required for the pole building before business operations may commence. The number of cars available shall be a total of 16. 10 being in the storage area in back, and 6 being displayed along the highway, maximum. The township is to review in 1 year with subsequent reviews at intervals established by the township. This permit shall expire upon transfer of the property, termination of any lease or agreement, or change in business ownership or operations. And the operator will carry all necessary insurance, including commercial insurance if it's required. And that is it.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any more discussion?
I have a thing that I think needs to be corrected in the motion. Monday through Friday is 8 to 5, Saturday is 8 to 4, is how I understood.
I might have confused you, but I think it's 8 to 5, 6 days a week.
Okay, that's not what it said in here, so.
Yeah, actually, according to the plan that was submitted to us, it's 9 AM to 5 on Monday through Friday, 9 AM to 4 on Saturday. That's what was requested. The motion actually gives an extra hour in the morning, both Saturday, or during the week and Saturday, and 1 additional hour on Saturday afternoon.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that was
Thank you for the clarification.
clarification.
Any other discussion?
Yes, yes, I have.
Janice?
The gentleman has said that he will be the one employee, and then he will have somebody on Saturday, one other person on Saturday. You don't have that in your motion.
Oh, isn't that covered on the, let's see, where was that? No more than one employee in addition to the owner-operator.
Yes, but he said that the other woman would just be working on Saturdays.
Well, this case leaves it open, and so it's a little bit, this is standard language within the home extended business area.
Okay, Janice?
Well, I just am quoting him that it wasn't two full-time people all week long. It was just one person on Saturdays that would be working, so we wouldn't have another assistant person working on the lot.
Chair Mull, do we have a second?
Yes. Dan Bravender did.
Okay, I didn't hear it, thank you.
Any other discussion? There's no other discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that the fenced area, can we have that as noted on the plan, Exhibit A? I'll mark that as Exhibit A. And I had one question for Member Malberg, because I think he might be, without Mr. Kreiser here, somebody that could provide at least a glimpse of an answer. No?
Have at it, sure.
I'm cautious of the condition on carrying the insurance. That's something that's required by the state's permitting board. I don't necessarily think that this commission should get into those types of requirements.
I wasn't aware of that, so if it's covered by another agency, that's okay with me. I can drop that provision of the insurance in the motion.
Yep, I'll drop
Is that okay with you, Dan?
Yeah, drop it.
Well said, Pat.
Best he sounded all night.
Okay, is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same way? Aye.
Aye.
Jeannie?
I want it smaller, so I'm against it.
Okay, aye. So motion fails 3-4. Jeannie?
I denied it.
Nay.
Nay.
So 4-3 vote.
How many voted no?
4.
All of you guys?
Yes.
4 for yes or 4
4
for?
for no.
Oh,
So the
man.
motion failed. So is there another motion that somebody would like to? You're,
just
it's not
a second,
necess- just hold on. We're not necessarily done yet.
Yeah.
That motion failed. Is there any other motion somebody would like to bring forward?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion that, so 5 cars in the front with no more than 4 cars in the designed area.
Undercover in the building, just to
The
clarify.
shed, yep. And with future expansion to come back to the board. Can I do that?
I'll second
That was part of the condition of the previous motion.
What? To come back?
Future expansion, yeah, that future expansion always requires a new hearing.
Okay.
Did you talk about the fenced area?
I don't want a fenced area.
Just the 5 and 4,
Yep.
total of 9.
So you still want days and hours of operation? You
Yes.
just don't want the fenced area?
Right.
So you are, just for clarification, you would have the same motion, but amending it by the number of cars. 5 out front and 4 undercover for the sales. And everything else would stay the same. Hours of operation, everything else would stay the same as the last motion.
And I seconded.
Yes. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Does everybody understand the motion?
Can we have discussion?
Yes, we are at discussion. So
We're at discussion.
any,
What would happen to the 5 cars that are out front when the business was past its operational time of 5 o'clock in the afternoon? Could they remain out there on the road, or would they have to be moved back?
according to the motion, they would remain out front because they would be parked out front for display.
Could be, that would be operational
Choice.
choice.
I have a question. The 4 cars in the building, that would be the building that was depicted on the plan?
Yes.
And the applicant indicated that would only hold 2?
Yeah.
The business plan that was submitted said 4.
So if he cleans the
Well,
building.
which
up,
is it, sir? Is it 2 or 4?
I have 2 different buildings. I can put 4 in one building, and I can have 2 in the other. Whichever building would be acceptable. Both of them are at least 2,000 square feet.
You don't want your buildings to be more than 2,000 square feet. There's a provision in our ordinance that says won't be more than 2,000 square feet. So unless you get permission from the other board that Chairman Moll sits on, you shouldn't propose that you're going to start using those. You shouldn't tell us anyways that you're going to use those.
And by the wording of this motion, if approved, you are not supposed to and can't use any of the other buildings for business operations.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, what did you just say, Barry? I didn't catch it.
No other buildings can be used as part of the operation outside of a building that is 2,000 square feet or less.
Okay, so the 2 big buildings plus the building to the north there cannot be used. The only one in the plan was the one just west of the large buildings. Is that correct?
Yeah, here, I'll pull that back up. So this plan would be Exhibit A. The building referenced is the green
Right.
outlined building.
Now, I'm still not clear. How many cars can be contained in that building with the green border on it?
The green border, that holds 4 pretty easily.
4.
Yeah.
Do you understand the motion?
Sort
5
of.
out front, correct?
Yep.
Sam? And 4 in the building.
Okay, no problem.
getting
No problem?
No problem.
All right.
Okay, do we have any other discussion?
Shut my
Not,
mouth.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way? Aye. Motion carries 4-3. There we go. Pat, Janice, and myself. So,
Would it be possible, the state wants a signature,
how does that work, Barry?
Not getting it tonight.
Yeah.
Come back tomorrow morning.
okay.
come through the county tomorrow morning and down to the desk and they'll help you out.
Thank you very much.
Tell
Thank you.
Dennis I said hi.
I'm gonna be in.
Jim, did you
Jim?
hear her?
Make sure you call the office to make sure the proper staff is there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's tomorrow morning. Come in, be there tomorrow morning, sometime before noon.
Okay, thank you.
Can't sleep in.
I won't.
Okay,
I need them for the file. Yep.
Thank you very much.
all right.
Yep.
Number 4 on the agenda tonight is Nate and Jackie Cowett. Want to come and give your names, please, for the record?
I'm Jackie Cowett at 1587 Foley Avenue.
All right, Barry?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this property should be very familiar. We've been through
Sorry.
the same hearing on the north property line previously. It's on Rock Lake, was part of an approved subdivision in 2017. It was a 3-lot subdivision, and then in July 2023, they amended the north property line to allow for placement of a building. This particular request is very similar. It's to adjust the south line to take into account where some stuff has been built and the location of an existing driveway. So pretty self-explanatory request. The only thing is we did not receive any response from the township. However, based on the totality of the request, staff would be comfortable in this rare instance, if the commission wants to move forward, this should have very little impact overall. It's just we have to bring it here because these lines were approved by the commission previously. So it's just basically a property swap, moving the lines just a little bit.
Anything you want to add?
It was approved by the township, I think, in September or October of last year, so I can get those notes if they're needed. I apologize that this is like the 3rd hearing on this, but initially we did move the north line for the new building. I do believe that the owners of the property to the north, also recently proposed a slight line adjustment because they're gonna split that property potentially. Is that?
It was a full subdivision. They've gotten approval to subdivide their 20-some acre lot into 2 10s.
Yes.
And we're just waiting for some finalization on stuff before they can record it.
Yes, I think it was approved and we all just had to pay our taxes to be able to record it. And so in the process of just doing the survey, we realized some of our stuff is on across the line and some of our neighbors, their driveway is on our line. So we just are keeping lot sizes the exact same, but just adjusting the property lines.
Okay, thank you.
And I do think, I'm not 100% Barry, but I do think that we have to acquire a little bit more lakeshore as this proposes to be able to adjust the north line as those people proposed in December. For the amount of lakeshore required for a lot.
I'd have to look.
There was something about that, and I think that we had to
Yeah.
gain a little to give a
Yeah,
little.
You might have had to gain a foot or two looking at
The
that.
lot to the
that
south has
north line where it
much
says
more than enough.
Where the north line says existing property line. Yeah, you would have to, if that moved at all in that swap, then I'd have to look back because the minimum width is 300 feet. I'm not sure. It's close.
But this would meet all the
Yeah.
requirements.
If you meet it now, you would extend it. If you're not meeting it now, you would. So either case, you're good.
Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Is there anyone from the public that has anything to comment on? Anyone from the public? If not, we'll bring it back up here. Questions, concerns?
I'll make
Are we ready for a
Mr.
motion?
Chair, to approve the amendment to the conditional use permit for an updated subdivision as described, unplatted subdivision as described in document A1353769 in record with a survey submitted by Auto Associates for the date 11/1/23, project number 23-0265, as seen on file with following conditions. Number 1, no new parcels are created. Exchange portions must be incorporated into existing parcel numbers no later than 12/31/2025. Number 2, conditions of the previous approval on document A1353769 remain in full force and effect.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? There's no other discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries.
Thank you.
That one was too short.
And before we go on to number 5, we will take a quick chairman's break. Call the meeting back to order. Next on the agenda is number 5, Jason and Don Motzko.
I can take that one, Mr. Chairman. The applicants have requested to withdraw their request, so there's a motion to dismiss the matter without prejudice at the applicant's request in the packet.
Okay,
So motion.
do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries. Number 6 on the agenda is Fritz Companies Incorporated. You want to come up, please, and give your name for the record, and we will get started.
John Fritz.
Barry.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the property is an ag zone property in Rockford Township. It was previously mined in 2000, 2006 by Buffalo Bituminous, and there was a request in 2020 to bring in 60,000 yards of fill, which never materialized. This request is basically that same request all over again to bring in an estimated 60,000 yards of clean fill to reclaim the old mining site. We do have the overall property with the mining area, which was limited to an area up on the corner of 2 township roads, about a mile, 3/4 of a mile from County Road 14, just west of the Rockford Township Hall. It includes filling of the wet area, which is not a natural wetland. That was the result of the mining activity that was done previously, so that would get filled in and the property leveled and flattened according to this plan that has been presented. We did get response from the township. They did approve. I included that. This actually was stuck in Cheryl's email while she was on vacation, so I didn't get it until after I'd already prepared the staff report, which the township has approved. They did it as a 1-year conditional use permit. In this case, I believe Mr. Fritz is asking for 3, but their motion is a 1-year conditional use permit to complete the land alteration from the old gravel pit. Township to review in 1 year to decide if additional time is needed and review complaints if received. There was also a comment from the highway department, which is referenced in your packet.
Okay. That's it. Anything you would like to add?
I think Barry pretty much, we're just gonna reclimate this back and turn it back into a farm field.
Okay. And go to the public. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? You want to come, please come up and give your name for the record, and try to hold it to 4 minutes.
Hi, my name is Bjarte Harm. Bjarte, B-J-A-R-T-E. Just a question. I'm sorry. 3775 Daig Avenue, Southeast. Just wondering impact on us in terms of any noise and a duration of project. I think that was already answered. The duration was 1 year, and then maybe get renewed. Yeah, could you comment on the traffic, where it'll be coming, what kind? Just so we have an understanding of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else that would like to comment? Is there anyone else in the public that would like to comment? If not, we'll bring it back up here. You want to grab the podium? And I guess that would be one of my questions. I mean, where is some of the fill coming from? Where are you bringing it? Is it clean fill? What type of fill?
It basically comes out of road projects, commercial buildings, excess from basement digs on houses.
So when you're asking for a 3-year, potentially a 1 year, you wouldn't have, depending on workloads, I know we hear it all the time, but 1 year probably wouldn't be enough.
Probably not, no.
To come in with that many yards.
Right.
Because that would be a lot of traffic, a lot of truckloads.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions?
And how are you gonna come into the site?
We come past Rockford Town Hall, and then there's a road entrance. Well, you can see it near the big hole there.
Okay, thank you.
Primarily north or south, John?
I would say a lot of it's gonna come from the Delano area.
Okay, yeah, so you'd be coming up, going north on 14
Yep.
and then taking a left there.
Now, I guess this would be a question for Barry. As that area develops and looks like we have development on the sides of it and stuff, when you fill that area back in, that will not be available for building sites, being it's been disturbed material, correct?
That specific area, likely not. It'll depend upon soil borings and whether or not, how the mining activity took place in that specific location. If they can find an area on the fringe where there's been no disturbance, I wouldn't necessarily absolutely rule it out. Unlikely, but not rule it out. I have had discussions with the property owners here on a number of different aspects, and, they have a few entitlements left for them, and they have talked about potential in the future, and depending upon how it's broken up, you could break this pit area up into multiple lots and extend it to the south to gain undisturbed land as part of a building site. So septic on this site, maybe not, but if they work their division lines properly, it doesn't mean that there might not be areas of this that couldn't be part of a house site. There again, this particular spot in the middle of this, no, you're not going to be able to put a septic in there because it's on fill, on disturbed soils. But they could potentially be part of a overall development plan that this could be broken up as part of multiple lots that extend into undisturbed areas.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, concerns?
My only question is a factual one. Are you doing the old, the pit right on 25?
Yep.
Okay. That just gives me a context for the sort of operation it is, and that pit looks really good. Really good
Yeah,
compared
you're
to
referencing
what it was.
the Getsky pit where we just permitted that last year before.
Yeah, where it didn't look good for a while, and it looks
A decade.
It looks
Yeah.
really good right now. Okay. That gives me some confidence.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, or is somebody ready to
I'll make a
present
motion. I make a motion to approve a conditional use permit to allow up to 66,000 yards of clean fill to be hauled into the site for better restoration of the old gravel pit to return the land to farmland. According to the grading plan submitted by North Star Surveying, job 2020020, with the following conditions. 1, hours of operation to be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. 2, projects to be completed by October 31st, 2027. 3, every effort should be made to keep the road free from debris. And 4, truck hauling signs should be used when hauling is taking place. 5, must abide by all state and federal permitting requirements.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. There was nothing in your motion that I heard for the township to at least review it after a year.
Would you like me to add that?
Yes, please.
Bit requested,
All
and I
right.
would like.
Number 6, that the township review this in 1 year.
Is that okay with the
Yeah,
second?
that, I'm okay with the amendment.
Okay, is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same way. Motion carries. Thank you. Number 7 is Fritz Companies Incorporated.
Long time no see.
You want to give your name for the record for this?
John Fritz.
Thank you. Barry, when you are ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a approximately 40-acre parcel at the corner of County Road 12 and 107 north of Montrose, zoned ag and is ag in the plan. It was previously mined on a temporary basis by Mathewitz in 2001 for a road project, and Oh, and there was a permit to better reclaim it in 2021, which did not accomplish what they were looking for, apparently. This plan is let me get to it, is a new mining request, as noted, with the mining plan being in phases, starting in the northwest corner and then working their way down. It does include crushing and washing and recycling, as per the plans that the commission has received. So this would be a 10-year permit that would then occur in phases and likely be renewed pending use of the pit. We did receive response from the Highway Department. They are requiring a right turn lane off of 107 into the pit. And the township has approved with the condition to allow the crusher 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, with the pit reclaimed in sections and with the township review every 2 years. Was handed another comment at the start of the meeting by a neighbor who had indicated concerns and objects and has concerns with the environmental concerns in the area with dust, noise concerns, impacts with the crusher and the other activities associated with the mine, and the health implications of breathing cement dust with the crusher. That's what I got.
Okay, thank you. Anything you would like to add?
When we do crush, we follow MPCA guidelines and add water if needed.
Okay. So basically it's as needed, or do you use water pretty much as a policy?
We'll use water as a policy, yes.
Okay. I guess is there anybody from the public, if you want to have a seat, anybody from the public that would like to comment on this? Gentleman there, please, give your name for the record, please.
Andrew White. I live at 4198 County Road 12 South. So I've recently purchased one of the parcels along County Road 12 South, and I intend to farm it. It is agricultural, and I do have concerns also about the crushing and the dust that's going to get in the air. It will blow onto my property. That will cause soil degradation, and I also don't want my children breathing in that dust. I'm an engineer. I've been through many toxic plants and dealt with this type of stuff before. It will get out. I need to understand what his mitigation plan is to ensure my property and the health of everybody in that area.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this? If there's nobody up from the public that wants to comment, then I guess the applicant can come back up. And do we have any questions or comments here from the board?
Well, is he going to
Janice?
answer that one question first?
Yes.
Answer that question.
Yeah, do you want to kind of
We're not going to crush continuously. We crush, recycle 2 to 3 weeks a year, and I don't even see us doing that here. I think it would be every 3 years before we got enough material there to crush.
in timeline of crushing?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yep.
I mean, if it was a condition put on?
Yep.
I mean, 2-week crushing would be the
I
only
think I
time you
had
could
that.
run
I
it?
think I actually had that in there.
Yeah, I just want to make
Yeah.
sure
Yep.
the public knows or what exactly
Yes.
then. And then, like I stated before, water to keep the dust down.
Yep.
Control the dust. Okay. I'll go to Janice first and then I'll come. Janice?
Yes, I have a question. Are you familiar with the term bag house? A bag house?
We're not doing an asphalt. This is just for a gravel pit.
It's just for the gravel?
Yep.
Oh, no
Yep.
asphalt,
There's no asphalt plant here being
you.
discussed. Not that I know of.
Nope.
Okay.
Had to ask.
Yep. Ken?
Sir, you mentioned the use of water. When would you be using water? In what specific operations?
Well, we would use water. We would inject water when we crush, or if it's a dusty situation, then we do water as activity in the pit.
Do you have water available there?
There is water. There will be water here, yeah.
Like a pond or something?
Yep.
Okay. And then when you do crush, you say you inject it. What do you mean? When it's going up the conveyor?
It's on the impactor. There's spray bars on the impactor that water as we crush.
Okay, as it comes in or as it comes out of the crusher?
As it comes in.
I see.
as it's getting mulched up.
Sure,
crushed
and
up.
your estimation that's does the job?
Yeah, we do it at I have recycling plants all over the cities. We do the same thing. They're next to residential houses, and we never have a problem.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions, concerns? Somebody ready to make a motion? I guess if we don't have any other.
I can't read it because I don't have my glasses.
Can't hear.
She can't read because she doesn't have her glasses.
So,
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared
I
to make a
can't hear
motion
because of my ears.
Dan's got it.
to approve the mining plans,
Dan has got the motion.
to improve the mining plans to include crushing and recycling of asphalt and concrete in accord with plans presented and description provided by the applicant on the record, including all erosion control and stormwater management details with the following conditions. 1, any requirements by the county engineer for traffic direction and access to County Road 107 must be met, including the construction of a right turn lane prior to operations commencing. 2, mining should start in northwest corner and proceed according to the phasing plan submitted in order to utilize as much hayfield as possible. 3, the crusher to be used for a maximum of 3 weeks per season, hours as identified by the townships. Berms must be constructed as shown on the mining plans. Topsoil may be stripped, but no mining may take place until the berms are completed. 5, must abide by all state and federal permitting requirements. 6, the permit shall be reviewed by the town board every 2 years for compliance with all regulations and to determine if any new conditions are necessary. Number 7, this interim use permit shall expire April 4th, 2034. Any mining past that date or expansion or change in operations will require a new IUP. Number 8, a reclamation bond, cash escrow, or irrevocable letter of credit for $188,350 shall be provided prior to operations commencing and kept in place until such time as the pit is fully reclaimed. The commission can adjust this amount as outlined in the mining ordinance to any amount deemed acceptable.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Motion made and seconded. Do we have any other discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Barry?
If I may. So the portion in the prospective motion included suggestions on placing hours of operations, not necessarily as established by the township. So if the commission wants those hours established by the township, which for the crush are 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, the applicant asked for 7, or it's in the write-up for 7 to 7. So if you want the separate conditions that the township did, I would recommend the motion be amended to include the specific times that that are going to be requested. So if you want to go with the township at 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., mention that, or if you want to do 7 to 7, which is what the ordinance allows for, just some clarification on that, because that was meant as a add stuff here on what you want to see. And then the same would go for the last condition, number 8. If the commission wanted to set the escrow amount or the surety amount differently than what the ordinance specifies, you have the ability to do that.
Dan?
Mr. Chair, I'm all right with the bond reclamation amount.
Okay.
I would add item 9, since it's a township request, for hours of operation to be 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, correct?
Well, the township's only requesting that for the crusher in the periods that the crusher.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So where you had read hours as identified by the township.
Yep.
With a question mark, that was to actually, if you want to use those hours as requested by the township, that's where you would insert that. If not, it's 7 to 7.
Yeah, I would use the hours requested by the township.
7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. So insert that into condition number 3.
Number 3.
That's number 3.
And that would be a clarification.
Yep.
More so than a change in his motion.
Yes.
It's a
Yep.
clarification, so.
Yep.
Motion stays the same. Any other discussion?
I missed that question mark.
There's no other discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Member Bravender, I try to call those things out, and sometimes when you write it, it's hard to catch it when you're reading it.
I thought I covered it, and then I was looking over, so wait.
All right, number 8, Kyle and Beth Ashwell.
My name is Kyle Ashwell.
All right, thank you. Barry, when you are ready.
Yep, just 1 second, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Let's get all my paperwork in order. Come on, Barry. Okay, all right, Mr. Chairman. So this property is north of Cokato Lake, encompassing roughly 40 acres. What the location request shows as the selected parcels includes Mr. Ashwell's parcel to the south, because there is a potential haul route that goes through that property and then would access on the 25th Street, as what was noted in the plan. So we include that parcel because that could affect property owners that are different than just that around the 40-acre portion. So we included both parcels when we listed the request in our system and for our notices. So that's why there's just a little bit different here. But the parcel is roughly 40 acres inside. The proposal is a 10-year plan to mine on the property. This would be similar, another kind of phasing type of request where they'll start in the northeast corner and then work their way around and renew as needed on the 10-year permits that the mining ordinance allows. But we generally get these as a full plan up front. We do have the mined conditions plan here, as well as a reclamation plan on file. Similar to the previous request, there's going to be other activities associated with it that are all listed out in the applicant's business plan that the commission was provided. We did receive 2 neighbor responses that are recommending disapproval of the request due to the nature of the area being recreational and a quiet area, and concerns with noise and dust. The township has approved, get to that, for that 10-year IUP with a yearly review for the township. The SWCD is in discussions with the applicant on a wetland that may be impacted there, so we don't have the final response from Soil and Water yet, but they did reach out to us and indicated that they wanted some more information, and we're working with Mr. Ashwell on that wetland that's on the south edge of the pit area, which would, you can see it just below on the south end of that area. See a little bit better there, right down the blue line in between the 2 pieces. So that's what I have, Mr. Chairman.
Right. Is there anything you would like to add?
Not at this time, not that's out, other than what I petitioned,
Okay.
requested.
If you want to have a seat, I will open it up to the public then. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? Please come up and give your name for the record.
Hello, I am Diane Herbst. Our property is at 13505 25th Street Southwest in Cokato. And I just want to say that we're not necessarily against the request, but we do want several clarifications to what's being requested, and also what kinds of limitations and requirements are part of this plan. So some of the questions I have, first of all, is whether there are limits to how much can be stockpiled and the extent of the business. You know, how much can be done on site? What is the likelihood of expansion? And as part of that, we're talking about that upper square, not the full 40 acres. But one question I have is whether this could be expanded down to the remainder of that property, because it does extend right down to Cokato Lake, and that would be a concern. I'm also wondering if there's any planned and required reclamation once the work is done. We are concerned about wear and tear on 25th Street and safety issues. It's a narrow road, it's a dirt road, it has a blind corner, so I think there are real safety concerns that should be addressed, and the quality of the road should be maintained, I think, as part of this, and that should be part of the plan. We're also concerned about noise and dust and whether there are any provisions, whether it's hours, how much that crusher can be used. The last plan talked about only 2 or 3 weeks a year. We haven't heard any details on this plan, so I would like to know more. Also, since that road is normally very dusty, if calcium chloride could be applied as needed to the road if there's going to be a lot of this kind of hauling traffic on it. We'd like to know the amount of traffic that this is going to entail, because again, it is a narrow road, it is a recreational area, so there is a safety concern. And I think that's the extent of the questions that we have. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment? Both the gentlemen here first, and I'll come to you in the back next.
Yes, my name is Glenn Pasusta. I own a cabin also on the north side of Cokato Lake. And I too I do not oppose to them mining the area, but my biggest concern is the traffic on that road. Currently, since I've owned the property since the early 2000s, that road is gravel and it becomes very dusty. And I have been paying, as well as Clint has been paying, and some of us others, to spray the road with calcium chloride. Because if we don't, on a calm day, just a couple cars going by, literally you have a dust haze going across the lake. And that's just with cars. I can imagine what it would be with tandem gravel trucks and things like that. So if you people were going to approve this, I would request that you put in the contingency that that road, that whole 25th Street be calcium chlorided so that that dust doesn't affect the property owners as well as the lake. Because literally that the dust is, it's unbelievable how that dusty that road becomes. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Gentleman in the back was next.
Yeah, I'm Gary Schwab, live at 13340 17th Street Southwest. Our land borders the northwest corner of this proposed operation. It's a very active recreation and residential area. There's many kids, bikes, and pedestrians, as well as lots of camping, fishing, and hunting on both ends of the proposed operation and along both roads that would be used for hauling, both out of the north side on 17th Street and the south on 25th. If someone from the county was coming out to assess the area and the plan, I'd encourage you to come out on a nice Saturday when the weather warms up. You know, it's quite busy with, well, there's a campground right down the road and a lot of kids in the area, a lot of biking. If the permit is approved, there are two areas that I'd like considered. You know, first would be the hours of operation. It would be nice for all the homeowners and all the people enjoying the lake and river areas if the operating hours could be Monday to Friday from 7 till 4 or 5 p.m. And that would leave at least the evenings and weekends quiet and peaceful for everyone there. And second would be the hauling in of asphalt and concrete to crush. By taking in outside asphalt and concrete, there would be no limit to how large of an operation it could grow into. When an asphalt road is being milled up, the volume is huge. I've heard that 20 semis an hour is common. And that'd be a lot of extra material coming in that would be hauled in, crushed, loaded, and then hauled back out. I talked to 3 different realtors, and they told me that the larger a nearby pit operation is, the more difficult it will be to sell your home and effectively lowering its value. So it just seems to me like a larger operation, like taking an outside asphalt and concrete, would be better suited in an area with less recreation activity and fewer homes impacted. We've lived there for 30 years, some neighbors even longer. And if the permit is approved as requested, I believe it will have a permanent change to the area regarding noise from trucks, crushers, and pit equipment, extra heavy truck traffic, possible dust issues, safety concerns for all walking, biking, and using the roads, and a lowering of our property values. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment? Gentleman there.
Dean Malstead, Cokato Township Board. The neighbors bring up excellent points, and I'll just bring you the view from what we talked about at the township, both about this pit and then just as a township. As some of you are aware, we all deal with gravel, we all deal with gravel roads, and where do we source material and all of that. So this particular property, this isn't the first time that there's been activity, obviously, on this. The Highway 12 project in the 90s used this. Buffalo Bituminous and whoever else has been in the acreage to the north of that. And I remember growing up as a boy, 10, 12 years old, and then detasseling out in the fields in this area and watching the truck traffic that goes out to County Road 3 to the west. And in those days, it was a huge cloud of dust because there were zero controls at that point. So obviously those were concerns that we had also as a township board. And we had concerns about both a westbound or an eastbound route going out to County Road 4 east or going out to County Road 3 west. And so we had quite a bit of discussion about those. And there's pluses and minuses either way, but there's access to the property. There should be access to the property if there's a permitted use for this. And so it's just a matter of how do we best deal with that, both on the safety side as well as we don't want road degradation. The roads that go to the west they've never been rebuilt since how they were half taken apart in the 70s and 80s for sure, and maybe into the 90s if it was mined then. I lost track of it during those 10 years. So obviously we're concerned about the road integrity and things like that also. We've been pretty proactive in the township to use dust control on hills and corners and different things like that. And we did have a discussion about doing dust control both on the west outlet or an east outlet on both of those roadway segments. To control the dust is one part, and so that's important obviously to the neighbors and to the enjoyment of the area, not having the dust clouds. And from our standpoint, it's very important to hold all the binder on the road and try and keep our material and not lose all the material off the road. And so we did have a discussion about that, and I think we have an initial plan of how that would work out with Mr. Ashwell. And then the other piece, I think that's probably germane, and it might be a little bit different than in some of the pits that you deal with. And I know enough that you deal with these pits, and there's all kinds of controversy around them, some of them. This one's a little bit different in that Mr. Ashwell, I think, is going to also be a resident. Yep. So be living at the property, a portion of the bigger portion of the property. And we were here recently and talked about the southwest corner piece that was probably 2 months ago that we talked about. And so it's a little bit different in that he's going to be living there also with his family and with his kids. He's a community member. I don't think he wants to hurt the kids in the neighborhood. Obviously, we've got to deal with the realities of being able to share the road. The roads weren't made for walking. They weren't made for biking. The roads were made to get people back and forth to their homes and to do the commerce that needs to be done. So we have to balance all of that out. And so we've been talking about that, and we've done some other projects with Mr. Ashwell that they've worked out very, very well for us. It's been congenial moments amongst all, and we haven't had a problem with it. So from the standpoint of where I'm at personally on the township board, I don't feel like we have anything that seems remotely to go out of control on this. Obviously, things can change, ownership can change. You'll deal with that in the paperwork as to what those restrictions will be, when that happens. But for the piece that's been presented, it seems like it's workable, doable. It will definitely change the atmosphere. It will definitely change some of what has become normal. But for many years before that, it was very normal to have a lot of gravel being processed out of that area and a lot of truck traffic. So there's an ebb and flow because of the nature of that property. And like I testified with the other piece, that southwest piece of this property, if anyone here on the board could get crops to grow on that land, I'll give you an award. Because it is made to do what it does right now. It's why MnDOT looked at it when MnDOT rebuilt Highway 12. And it just seems like an appropriate use. And I think Mr. Ashwell probably has, I think he's our best option really for what could happen to this property, because inevitably as aggregate gets used, somebody's gonna come for this land and somebody's gonna ask for this purpose to use this land. So that's our position. So hopefully that helps fill in some blanks. If you got other questions, I'll answer them.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment? Anyone else that would like to comment? I'll give you one more shot.
Yeah, Glenn Pasusta again, 13813 25th Street. I don't know if you guys know this, but they've already built a road basically from the road that goes around the lake to the little square parcel to the north. So I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're gonna be going through the field with your trucks.
Yeah, that's my drive.
Okay.
Well, just ask a question, I'll have you respond, Kyle.
Okay.
So we're on record.
So I'd like to make a request, and again, I'm not against them mining, it's just the traffic. So could they be restricted to, once they get on the road that's going around the lake, to only go to the east, which is the shortest route to asphalt, as opposed to going west? And it doesn't matter if it's 25th Street or any of the other streets in there, because that's gonna be a longer trip on gravel roads.
Okay, great, thank you.
And again, to spray calcium chloride to keep the dust down. And since there's gonna be a lot of truck traffic, maybe have to do it twice a year instead of just once, because the roads are gonna get pounded up.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Anyone else that would like to comment? Anyone else that would like to comment? Kyle, if you want to come back up and maybe respond to a couple of those concerns that you've heard.
Yeah, when we reviewed this with the township, we'd only be allowed on 25th Street to go east, out to County Road 4, not around the north side of the lake.
Okay.
And part of their approval for it was the dust coating per their requirements. There were the intersections and whatnot. On 25th Street, it was all the way to 4, and there were sections they had outlined out on 17th, and the other 2 streets headed out to 3.
So
And it was multiple, twice a year.
Okay, so they already have addressed, the township has addressed.
Yeah.
Dust coating, and you're aware of it, and.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I guess any other? Dan, do you want to start being, you're aware of what's going on?
Well, I think Dean did a good job of explaining the scope of the operation. There was a lot of discussion about dust. We know that the roads have to be kept and maintained, and if we don't dust control, we're gonna lose our road. We will be taking, pictures of the road before the operation starts, so we can assess it. We're reviewing it every year to make sure that we don't want to lose our road any more than the neighbors want to lose it, because it's very costly to rebuild. So dust control is one of our biggest friends when it comes to keeping those roads in shape. And so as far as the operation for the northern part there, first of all, he would be going out 17th. There are 2 residences on 17th, and it's Gary Schwab, and then Beckla's are further down. Those are the 2 residents on 17th. And then going down Oliver, 1 mile to 20th, and then out to County Road 3. And then once he gets his road built up into that north area, he has the option of coming down to 25th and then out to County Road 4 and not to go east. Or west, I'm sorry, on 25th, only east. County Road 4 is a heavy haul road, that's a 9-ton, and County Road 3 is a heavy haul road. So those are the only township roads he's been approved on, and that would be the designated haul road from the township. We've worked with Kyle quite a bit in the past, and he's very good to work with. He knows where we are, and we know where he is.
And I guess I can attest to that. I mean, I work down in that area, live in the north, but I work in the Cokato area. And I know the township down there, when they don't allow trucks on a road, they really do enforce it. Trust me, my company has learned that.
Follow the directions.
Yes, follow the directions, and when it says a 4-ton or 5-ton road, that's what they mean, and they do enforce it. Any other comments or questions? Concerns?
Chair.
Ken?
Could you explain how you're going to phase this operation? And maybe it's somewhere in my packet or your plan, but I didn't catch that.
No, they kind of took the phasing out of it for the application process. But we would start on the northeast corner and head south. And
That northeast, is that a 40 or is that smaller, roughly?
35 acres.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd kind of work in that 35 acres first and then progressively go south?
Yeah, yeah. This permit is only for that 35 acres, so that's as far as it can go.
Okay, and there's an existing field road from that 35 down to 25th?
No, I put in my driveway for my house that Mr. Pazusta was talking about. That's a driveway to my house
Okay,
that we're gonna start building here in a couple weeks on that south property. So it would get extended up into this pit area if this permit gets applied.
and that would be your only exit out of there, or would you be using 17th as well?
We'd be using 17th as well.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have one question for Kyle.
Dan?
One thing we didn't talk about was the scope of your asphalt and recycling. So can you help us out as to how much you're gonna be doing or what you're proposing?
The current plan would be to dump what we have that our own company creates. So I don't really have a volume number. I don't know how fast this thing will get rolling, started. As far as if, like Gary Schwab mentioned, hauling in from milling of a road, no intentions of that. And if there needs to be some limits or quantities on that, that could get put on here.
Okay, so, because one of the things this board has done in the past when it comes to crushing asphalt and concrete, they've, limited it to, say, 3-4 weeks out of the year. And, because once you start up the crusher, I'm assuming you're gonna do a lot at one time.
Yeah, yeah. It wouldn't be more than 2 weeks a year. And I don't even know if it would be every year. It might be every third year. I don't know the volume that we'd bring in.
Okay,
Are you done, Dan?
yep.
I've got a question for Barry. On a situation like that with asphalt, if there was like, just say a County Road 3 project, would there be more permitting with, say, a County Road 3 project and where the millings went, that would have to go on top of Mr. Ashwell's permit? Or could he say, win the bid for the County Road 3, a road project, and bring in the whole road without having to come back here?
Well, yeah, potentially not have to come back. I mean, if the crushing is allowed and there's nothing attached to it that limits volumes or anything else, which would be very difficult for us to actually work with as a condition, don't want to control, what bids he gets, and it could potentially be in there, yeah, without having to come back. If crushing is granted and recycling is granted, it's granted.
Okay, so then technically, on that point, if you limited it to 2 weeks of crushing or 3 weeks of crushing a year, that's the volume whatever he can get through in those amount of hours and time, depending on how big of a crusher it is and how fast it can crush, and that's gonna have to be fitted to the project. So I guess that's a matter of a term as to how many weeks he can crush.
Right. While talking about this, the one thing that pops into my mind, well, if it's not done, then you get the situation like you do on Highway 25 prior to that pit getting worked on with the amount of concrete that was in it, that sat there for years, and that was never crushed.
Okay. Janice?
Yes, I have a question for you. When you're talking about hauling asphalt and grinding it and that sort of thing at the property, how much of this are you going to be digging out before you start crushing, and you're going to stockpile it then, or what are you going to do with that?
Yeah, we'll have to strip the black off, build the berms that are on the mining plan, and strip
Okay.
it back and lower it down so we have our screen walls for sound.
Okay,
So we wouldn't even be able to bring any in for quite some time until we got the pit floor established.
okay. Are you planning to do any plantings around the perimeter of the property?
There's, on the east side, it's woods already.
It's woods?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The south will have the berm, and then the west side, there's a tree line there right now.
There's a tree. How about on the north side?
No, excuse me, on the west side, there's a tree line.
The west side is the tree line.
North side, the road comes in, there's virtually no trees.
So were you planning on planting some trees there?
I wasn't intending to, no.
Okay. How big of a berm are you going to be building then next to the road? How tall is it?
Next to the road, there wasn't a berm required.
There's not a berm there.
Because it'll get lowered down, so it'll be 30-ish feet, 25, 30 feet lower than the road.
And so people driving by or walking on the road will just look over and look down into the pit?
Well, we're on the very end, so they won't be driving by, they'd be driving into our property.
I see. How many feet into the property would that be then?
The road goes 300 feet.
Okay. And you're going to leave all the rest of that land untouched then up to that 300 feet from the driveway that runs along the driveway into the property? All that will be left untouched?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, and do you have plans in the future to mine that out too then?
Not currently, no.
And what are your plans for restoration then? How much are you going to take out of there before you start returning this pit into something?
We would roughly open up 10 acres in the northwest corner, stack that dirt up, and when that section got done, we would take the black dirt from the next 10 acres and we'd put that over the first part of it.
Okay, so I suppose you don't have any idea of the amount of time that would take for the 10 acres to be in need of fill, but that's.
I can't turn off repeat.
Uh-oh, my phone's, I have hearing aids and they're talking to me. I don't know if you can hear them. But, so the 10 acres over on the northwest corner that you're going to be mining out then,
Northeast.
northeast, yeah. That will just be what you're working on now, and when you're done working there, then you'll fill that in? And will it go up to the height of the berm then?
Yeah, we'll make the grades on the plan. It'll come down and flatten out.
Okay, at the elevation that shows here on the,
Yes, yeah.
on the plan.
As far as a timeline, I don't know. I really don't know. We're a small company.
Okay. Well, that answers my questions that I have. Thank you.
Any other concerns, questions? Is somebody prepared to make a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion. Everybody's so quiet tonight. To approve the mining plans to include crushing and recycling of asphalt and concrete in accord with the plans presented and description provided by the applicant on record, including all erosion control and stormwater management details with the following conditions. Any requirements of Cokato Township for road repair, dust control, and access to township roads must be met. 2, the applicant should make an effort to open as little of the pit as needed and reclaim as it goes. 3, the permit shall be reviewed by the town board every year for compliance with all regulations and to determine if any new conditions are necessary. 4, must abide by all state and federal permitting requirements. 5, this interim use permit, IUP, shall expire on April 4th, 2034. Any mining past that date or expansion or change in operations will need a new IUP. 6, a reclamation bond, cash escrow, or irrevocable letter of credit for $175,000 shall be provided prior to operations commencing and kept in place until such time the pit is fully reclaimed.
All right, I have a motion. Do I
I'll
have a second?
second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Pat?
From the township's perspective, the calcium chloride requirements, and maybe I missed it, but is that gonna be a requirement of what the town is asking for?
It's not gonna be in here, but we'll take care of that ourselves. We've already dealt with the contractor on that,
Okay.
okay? And our goal is to keep the residents happy with the dust. We don't want
Yep.
dust.
No, I appreciate that you're gonna do that, and I think it helps that the operator's gonna be living out there and the first one to get hit by the dust if he doesn't keep it
Yeah,
down.
currently in our minutes, it states that, as far as dust control, that, he would be required to pay up to 50% of the cost of all dust coating required by us. That's in our minutes, township minutes, from the last month, in our March meeting.
Okay.
Does that help?
It helps me to know that you are going to be taking care of the dust.
Meaning the township.
Well, I expect Dan to be
The
out there, but the
township.
township,
Not me personally, the
he
township.
should. But
His home business is going really well.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, the only other
There you go.
point I would make would be the discussion on haul routes. That should be included as a condition in this, as far as that south haul route being only able to enter and exit to and from the east.
So, Barry, can we refer to the township minutes? Because those are all in our township minutes that I sent you.
It is, but there again, if it's a township issue, it's directly relevant to the conditions
Okay.
of the permit. So it'd be good to, especially when it comes to the haul route, which
Okay.
is something that's in ordinance, that if we are going to limit the haul routes, it should be as a condition in the IUP.
Okay, I would include item 7 then in my motion for haul routes. And the haul routes out of this pit shall be onto 25th Street by the current access onto the property. He only has one access. 25th Street east to County Road 4, or 17th to 20th, no, I'm sorry, 17th to Oliver, 17th west to Oliver south to 20th Street west to County Road 3. Those are the 2 approved haul routes.
Okay. The second?
I approve.
All right.
You said 20th Street
Any other
West.
discussion, questions? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries. Thank you.
No site visits.
And it looks like that is it for us. Do you have anything else, Cheryl, that you know of?
Remember to
Check
be
with
here at
Barry.
6 o'clock next time.
Yeah.
What's that?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock in
We're
May.
gonna do a train, a be aware training or. Okay.
All right, I think we're done. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.